Ready to tackle that building project? Start right. Start here at H&L Rapid True Value for building supplies. The time by H&L Rapid True Value is
Nationwide time, 5 o'clock.
From the Nationwide News Network, comprehensive, incisive, tough. This is Nationwide at 5.
Good afternoon, I'm Ricardo Brooks.
And I'm Robianne Williams.
In Nationwide News at this hour, ODPEM says the events surrounding last Saturday's earthquake and tsunami did not rise to the level that required an alert to the public.
Government to invest billions in water systems this year.
The objective of the NWC is to expand their footprint from 78% to 85%.
Former Prime Minister P.J. Patterson comes out of his retirement pavilion to attack the Holness administration's boasts of prosperity.
There are too many families which simply cannot make ends meet.
Bar Association is questioning the absence of the CCJ from the constitutional reform bill being reviewed by Parliament.
JFJ condemns the illegal recording of TikTok personality Rosalie during a police operation at her home.
In news from the rest of the world, 2 flights carrying U.S. deportees heading to Venezuela with alleged gang members aboard.
Scores of USAID staffers who turned up for work today were turned away from its Washington headquarters.
In headline sports cricket, West Indies introduces term limits for president.
And later in our broadcast, in the cover story at 5:35, a 7.6 magnitude earthquake struck in the Caribbean Sea last Saturday evening. It triggered a tsunami alert for some countries in the region. There are questions about Jamaica's response following the alert. The Acting Director General of ODPEM, Richard Thompson, and Professor of Sedimentary Geology at the University of the West Indies, Simon Mitchell, will join us.
In Public Opinion at 6:26, we ask, how do you rate ODPEM's performance on a scale of 1 to 5? Give us your comments by logging on to our Facebook page, Nationwide News Network, and by tweeting us at Nationwide Radio, and message us on WhatsApp at 876-285-5693. You can also leave your comments on Instagram at Nationwide 90FM.
In the nation's business at 6:40, Jamaicans for Justice is condemning the recording of TikTok personality June Rosalie Dixon during a police operation at her home on Saturday. JFJ's chairman John Clark will join us.
At 7, the head of Haiti's Presidential Transitional Council, Leslie Voltaire, has announced that a general election is set for November 2025. Executive Director for the Institute for Justice and Democracy in Haiti, Brian Concanon, will join us.
All these and more as we take you home on air on your mobile. Nationwide 90 FM, Nationwide Radio JM.com, and on the Nationwide app. Available on the Google Play and the App Store. This Monday afternoon, it's Monday, February 10, 2025.
If it's news, it's got to be Nationwide 90 FM.
And now to the details. The Acting Director General of the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, ODPEM, Richard Thompson, says the events surrounding last Saturday's earthquake in the Caribbean Sea and the subsequent tsunami advisory did not rise to the level that required an alert to the public. He sought to explain, following criticism, that ODPEM dropped the ball on alerting the country. Shaloy Smichael reports.
On Saturday, a powerful 7.6 magnitude earthquake was recorded in the Caribbean Sea, north of Honduras and southwest of the Cayman Islands. The U.S. Geological Survey reported that the earthquake occurred at around 6:23 p.m. southwest of Georgetown in the Cayman Islands. Tsunami advisories were subsequently issued for Puerto Rico, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and the British Virgin Islands. The advisory for those islands were later cancelled. However, it was close to 4 hours later on Saturday night that the first advisory of a tsunami warning for Jamaica was posted by ODPEM. The advisory was posted to ODPEM's account on social media platform X. This drew widespread criticisms from the public on the late response from the country's premier disaster alert agency. One such criticism came on Sunday from opposition spokesman on local government Natalie Nita Garvey. According to Nita Garvey, Jamaicans were left in the dark on the warnings and what measures to take. Mr. Thompson sought to clarify the matter.
You level 1, you get those information issued from Pacific Tsunami Warning Center. Level 2, you get that information and you start issuing your advisory within your local domain. When you move to your level 3, which is a tsunami watch, is when the tidal gauges would have been pushing information to the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center that a tsunami has in fact been generated at source. So once you get that information that the earthquake has created a tsunami, then you now move to level 3, which is giving information to the public.
Mr. Thompson says the events following the 7.6 magnitude earthquake did not rise to a level 3. He says they were operating at level 2, where all of the information was issued to the relevant stakeholders.
So it wouldn't have risen to a level 3 for the weekend situation. So what we were operating at was your level 2. We got the information, the Met Office got the information, notification went down to the Jamaica Constabulary Force, port authorities, fisheries, information went out to the parish emergency grouping, the Ministry of Health. So it went out to every single person that are in the national notification process as it relates to tsunami advisory.
Nationwide News also contacted the Meteorological Service of Jamaica for a comment. Principal Director Evan Thompson says the Met's main duty is to notify ODPEM of the matter.
Whenever we receive the messages coming out of the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center that indicates that something has developed, we would make communication with the ODPEM to ensure that they are aware of the situation. I communicated with them, but they were already aware because they also get the communication, We are just a backup.
Shaloy Smichael for Nationwide News.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness says the government will be investing billions in water projects this year. He says the investment is to support the National Water Commission's thrust to increase its supply of potable water island-wide to 85%.
The fact that a pipe runs across your yard or in front of your yard doesn't mean that you have the water. You have to be connected to it and there has to be water in the pipe. So the objective of the NWC is to run their pipes into more communities, past more yards, so that you can connect to it. So the objective of the NWC is to expand their footprint from 78% to 85%.
The Prime Minister was speaking at a groundbreaking ceremony for Phase 2 of the Whitehall to Newmarket Water Supply Project in northwest St. Elizabeth on the weekend. He says already the NWC has over $7.3 billion under contract for water projects.
The government is going to step up to the plate and put, I'm not going to say how much until the budget is read, but we're going to put in a lot of money into water projects to support the NWC. Already, the NWC has $7.3 billion of projects under contract, meaning that they have gone through project development, they have gone through procurement, and now they have signed contracts with the various contractors to execute, like this one. All that they are waiting on now is for the budget to be read and the warrant to be issued so that they can say, all right, contractor, I mobilize you, I give you some money to start. And that, is a little process that we go through. We read the budget and then we just bust the NWC. We're not busting a pipe, but we're going to just bust the NWC.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness.
Meanwhile, Minister with responsibility for water, Matthew Samuda, says over 1,300 customers have been reconnected to their water supply through the NWC's amnesty.
We know that there are families that have been disconnected from the supply who are within the utility footprint because of major leaks they may have had in the past. You instructed that Jamaicans must have water, and we will be a caring government and we will invest in ensuring that they have that water, whether it is through new infrastructure or for pensioners, persons on path, and those Jamaicans who are having a hard time paying the water bills that may have existed even before they had the property that they have. As such, Mr. Prime Minister, we have completed the reconnection of over 1,300 customers who didn't have water before your announcement thus far. Mr. Prime Minister, we have a further 8,438 customers that are going through the process that will be reconnected this month, Mr. Prime Minister.
Matthew Samuda, the Minister with responsibility for water. He was also speaking at a groundbreaking ceremony for Phase 2 of the Whitehall to Newmarket Water Supply Project in northwest St. Elizabeth.
Former Prime Minister P.J. Patterson has offered a scathing assessment of the Holness administration's stewardship of the country's affairs. Patterson slammed the government's management of the island's road network, health system, and what he described as the alarming levels of poverty in the country. It's some of the most strident comments against a sitting administration from the former Prime Minister since he retired in 2006. Ricardo Brooks reports.
Percival Noel James Patterson was Jamaica's longest-serving Prime Minister. He served from 1992 to 2006. He's also the country's most successful political leader, winning an unprecedented 3 terms in government. With a general election looming, the former Prime Minister has decided to wade into the political arena.
I've been called from the pavilion and I'm pleased to come as an opening batsman to the series which is going to be held in Region 6.
By his assessment, Prime Minister Andrew Holness and his cabinet have done a poor job on several fronts. He started with the state of the nation's roads.
Not even before the days of asphalt, when it was Rockstone Road, have I seen the roads in Jamaica in such a state of dilapidation and disrepair.
The Holness government has defended its stewardship of the road network, pointing to the more than $45 billion in road repairs under the REACH and SPARK programs. Patterson next turned his attention to healthcare. The former Prime Minister says the sector is bordering on complete failure. He took particular aim at the delays at the Cornwall Regional Hospital.
Starting with 1.2 billion and it is now 21.5 billion and mounting. And the hospital is still incomplete. Nowhere else in the world but Jamaica could you have a project like that and not even one head rule.
The former Prime Minister says the Holness administration's boasts of prosperity ring hollow.
Despite all the boast about prosperity and despite the economic indices, there are too many families which simply cannot make ends meet. There is a recent report that shows hunger and malnutrition in Jamaica are at an alarming levels.
Among the economic indices the former Prime Minister references are the lowest unemployment rate in history and the longest period of no new taxes being levied by an administration. Data available from the PIOJ indicate the highest poverty levels recorded in the last 3 decades were under the Patterson administration when it stood at 21.6% in 1996. Patterson says the time has come for a new direction in the country.
We have to change course. We are moving in the wrong direction. The moral order is under siege and the social order in decay. We have to come to the rescue of Jamaica, land we love. Time to restore the precepts of transparency and accountability.
The former Prime Minister was speaking at a recent forum put on by the PMP Region 6. Ricardo Brooks for Nationwide News.
Member of Parliament for West Central St. Catherine, the JLP's Dr. Christopher Tufton is urging party supporters to be in a state of readiness as the campaign for the next general elections intensifies. Dr. Tufton was speaking at the Jamaica Labour Party's Area Council 2 meeting at Anoto Bay High School in St. Mary on Sunday.
This government since 2016 has done more to support the well-being of the Jamaican people than any other government in the last 20-30 years. And we must not be shy talking about it because PNP people so hungry for power. They are going to say any and everything to undermine the government. So the next 4 or 5 months until the leader call it, we have to be bold. If you never used to call the calling program, start calling them now. If you never used to write letters to the cleaner, start writing now. If you never used to talk a little politics by the pulpit, start talking now. It is time to show your colors and your intention and that you are supporting the Jamaica Labour Party.
Dr. Christopher Tufton, Member of Parliament for West Central St. Catherine. The next general election is constitutionally due by September this year. Meanwhile, MP for South East St. Mary, Dr. Norman Dunn, expressed confidence that the JLP will retain his constituency in the next election.
We remain a very strong constituency, and the strength of that constituency was shown in the local government election, the last local government election, because we went in with 3 seats and we came out with the 3 seats. But not just that, we have some of the best councillors you can find. We have Richard Creary in the Richmond division that nobody can test him. We have Hugh Bryan in the North Bay division that will speak about it a little bit more than they can test him. And we have Dan West in the Castle division and they can't test him.
Dr. Norman Dunn, a Member of Parliament for South East St. Mary, he was also speaking to party supporters at the JLP's Area Council 2 meeting in St. Mary.
You're listening to the news on Nationwide at 5. We'll have more after these.
Value Drug Pharmacy offers curbside pickup and delivery of your branded and generic drugs. WhatsApp your prescription to 876-881-6695. The time by Value Drug Pharmacy is
16 minutes after 5.
Rentokil Initial offers air purification solutions with triple filtration and unique auto-sensing capabilities that neutralizes malodor and replaces it with clean air. Call Rentokil Initial at 926-4236 for more details.
The temperature by Rentokil is
28 degrees Celsius in Kingston, 27 out west in Montego Bay.
Home is closer than you think when you save towards your dream home with the Homeowner Savings Plan, or HOSP, from CIBC Caribbean. With HOSP, you unlock preferential interest rates to earn more interest on your savings and pay less with a discounted mortgage rate. You can even borrow up to an additional US $5,000 or its equivalent to help you with your closing costs. Get home faster when you save the HOSP way with CIBC.
Continuing the news, the Jamaican Bar Association, JAMBAR, is questioning the absence of the Caribbean Court of Justice, CCJ, from the constitutional reform bill being reviewed by the Parliament. Kevin Powell is president of JAMBAR.
We're actually right now reviewing the latest bill, and the intention is to put forward our comments on the content. We touch on an issue which is relevant to JAMBAR, given our position on the CCJ, which is the absence of anything to do with the CCJ in that bill. That's a concern that we have and that we will raise.
The current bill addresses the matter of Jamaica's head of state. The government says it's taking a phased approach to the constitutional reform process. This first phase is focused on the removal of the King of England as the country's head of state. According to the government, the second phase will focus on the country's final appellate court. The government and opposition have been at loggerheads over the matter. Mr. Powell says although the pace of reform has been slow, it should not be rushed.
I think it's a very important process. It would be good if we were moving at a faster pace, but I understand that it will require a lot of collaborative effort, and I think it's not something that we can also rush.
Kevin Powell, president of the Jamaican Bar Association.
Human rights lobby group Jamaicans for Justice, JFJ, is condemning the illegal recording of TikTok personality June Rosalie Dixon during a police operation at her home on Saturday. The video, which began circulating online, shows Ms. Dixon naked. It's suspected that she was videotaped by one of the police carrying out the operation. Executive Director of JFJ, Michael Jackson, says such recordings are in breach of the protocols that govern the Jamaica Constabulary Force, JCF.
The allegations are that there was a recording of her without her clothes on. And you ask yourself the question, why did that recording happen in the first place? And how did it make it on social media? The police ought not to be involved in illegal recording of any citizen of Jamaica. You have several constitutional rights that must be considered. You have the right not to self-incriminate, so no police officer should be forcing you to issue any word of apology. You have a constitutional right to privacy, and that must be respected. And anything else to the contrary is a breach of the Constitution and a breach of the protocols that govern our police officers. It is outrageous, and I think we must all condemn such action.
The JCF has launched an investigation into the matter. It says the probe is being conducted by the Criminal Investigation Branch and the Inspectorate and Professional Oversight Bureau to determine the facts surrounding the incident. Ms. Jackson is demanding strong disciplinary actions against any JCF member found guilty of the act.
We have taken note that the Jamaica Constabulary Force is investigating the matter, but I take it a step further. We must demand an update of the outcome of that investigation, because while we welcome the announcement of the investigation, we must also hold the JCF to the fire to say that the public ought to be made aware of the outcome and the disciplinary actions that may be taken against any officer who was involved in that particular incident.
Michael Jackson, Executive Director of the JFJ, she was speaking on the JFJ-produced program Let's Talk Justice on Nationwide 90 FM on Monday.
World in a Minute is brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC. Hose Assembly and Supply, equipping Jamaica for success.
And Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology and integrity.
The World in a Minute.
In regional news, 2 flights carrying Venezuelan migrants departed the U.S. on Monday. Some of the people on the flight back to Venezuela are allegedly members of the Tren de Aragua gang. The flights are part of a plan to repatriate thousands of Venezuelans who fled their country because of economic sanctions and the campaigns of psychological warfare. Reuters News is reporting that this is the first flight of deportees since a January deal was reached between the Trump administration and the Venezuelan president Nicolas Maduro. President Trump's envoy, Richard Grenell, met with Maduro in Caracas on January 31. The two discussed migration and sanctions, among other issues. The Trump administration has also removed deportation protection from about almost 350,000 Venezuelans living in the United States. Come April, they could lose work permits and then be deported.
Officials and federal officers turned away scores of USAID staffers who showed up for work Monday at its Washington headquarters. This after a court temporarily blocked a Trump order that would have pulled all but a fraction of workers off the job worldwide. On Monday, a front desk officer told a steady stream of agency staffers that he had a list of no more than 10 names of people allowed to enter the building. Tarps also hung over USAID's interior signs. USAID staff were also denied entry to their offices to retrieve belongings. They were told by officials that the agency's lease had now been turned over to the General Services Administration. The move marks the latest step in what has been the fast-paced dismantling of the 6-decade-old agency and its programs worldwide.
World in a Minute was brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC. Hose Assembly and Supply, equipping Jamaica for success.
And Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology and integrity.
Recapping the top stories making nationwide news at this hour, ODPEM says the events surrounding last Saturday's earthquake and tsunami did not rise to the level that required an alert to the public.
Government to invest billions in water systems this year.
Former Prime Minister P.J. Patterson comes out of retirement pavilion to blast the Holness administration's boasts of prosperity.
Bar Association questioning the absence of the CCJ from the constitutional reform bill being reviewed by Parliament.
I'm Ricardo Brooks.
And I'm Robianne Williams.
And listeners, you can find the news on our website at nationwideradiojm.com and on the Nationwide app, available on the Google Play and the App Store. News next, the headlines at 6.
If you owe the NWC for more than 2 years, your aged debt may qualify for a 30%, 35%, 40%, or even up to 50% discounts, depending on its age and other special circumstances. Visit nwcjamaica.com for further information. Don't delay. Let's hear from you today. Dial 888-225-5692 or 888-CALL NWC. Get your share from the NWC's bucket full of goodies, serving you in so many ways.
Payroll processing giving you angina? Complete your payroll in just 15 minutes with IcoPay. IcoPay is an efficient payroll software that simplifies payroll processing and returns for businesses of all sizes. Features includes SO1 and SO2 filings, online salary deposits, payslip distribution via email, and many more. It's Jamaica's best-selling payroll solution. Visit IcoPayJA.com for a demo. Follow at IcoPayJA or call or WhatsApp at 876-333-5809.
Sports at 5 is brought to you by Total Tools. They almost always have it.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Sports here on Nationwide 90 FM. I'm Wayne Walker. Jamaica at the moment holding a 1-0 lead over St. Lucia in their CONCACAF Under-17 World Cup qualifier in Guatemala City. The Jamaicans are aiming for a third appearance at the World Cup and their first since Mexico 2011. It's approaching 27 minutes in the game. National senior football team coach Steve McLaren says yesterday's 1-1 draw with Trinidad and Tobago at the Tony Spalding Complex was not a true reflection of his team's performance. Josiah Trinningham, who plays his club football at Montego Bay United, scored at both ends of the field as after putting Trinidad ahead, he turned into his own net with seconds left in the game. This was McLaren's reaction to the draw.
I was pleased with the final third play. Better, we created chances, more crosses, pullbacks, had opportunities, had chances, and it's something that we worked on. We need to work on even more, and that's always the final thing. But no, I thought in both halves really, we got into areas in the wide. I thought Green did well in terms of what he did. But we did deliver crosses, we did get fullbacks forward, but it's something that we do need to develop. And when we did, we had opportunities, chances, but failed to take them. I think we deserved that at the end. We did deserve to lose.
Steve McLaren, national senior football team coach. The Reggae Boys beat the Soca Warriors 1-0 in the first game at Catherine Hall in Montego Bay last Thursday. Crystal Palace are through to the fifth round of the English FA Cup after beating Doncaster Rovers 2-0 in their fourth round clash at the Eco Power Stadium this afternoon. Daniel Muniz gave the Eagles the lead after 32 minutes with Justin Devaney applying the gloss in minute 55.
It's Kamada to roll it in towards Mateta, and then it's thumped home straight from the training ground. Clever ball threaded through Devaney. This time finds a quite glorious finish. He missed the simple one, but he finishes the much harder chance, and Palace do have daylight. That good Doncaster spell short-lived, and surely now Crystal Palace on their way to a date with Millwall in the next round.
Jamaica's reigning world 400 meters champion Antonio Watson says he's confident that his season opening performance at the Camperdown Classic at the National Stadium this weekend has set him up nicely for the rest of the season. Watson clocked 46.03 seconds in his first race in months after missing most of last season due to injury. The former Petersfield High School standout crossed the finish line first in one of 5 segments of the 400 meters at the National Stadium, but his time was second fastest on the night. Watson missed the Paris Olympic Games, but says the long layoff could be a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, it gave me opportunity to rest my body and also my mind, and it really brought me back down to ground level.
As regards the performance, Watson says he was satisfied with the outcome.
I wasn't worried about the time. It is my fastest season opener ever, so that's a plus. Noted that I'm coming back from a injury-prone season and running that time of year. I feel good, and I'm just hoping to do better going forward.
World 400 meters champion Antonio Watson. Meanwhile, Zandrian Barnes of Sprintex stunned the field when he won his section of the men's 400 meters in a world-leading 44.97 seconds. The 23-year-old Barnes came within 7/100ths of a second of his lifetime best of 44.90, and he says he knew he was capable of that performance given what he's doing in training.
My training times are really well, they are very great. So, coming in this race, I just try to execute as best as possible. Because that has been one of the biggest downfall over the years, executing my race. So, I just try to do that as best as possible.
Zandrian Barnes himself and Watson were speaking live on Sports Nation Live Saturday from the National Stadium. And finally in sports at this time, Cricket West Indies has introduced a term limit for the top positions of president and vice president after a special meeting of its members in Trinidad yesterday. CWI says its full member shareholders have officially approved a historic set of governance reforms. The term limits are at the forefront of the reforms, with the introduction of a term limit of a maximum of 3 terms of 3 years each for the positions of president and vice president. The regional cricket governing body said the change will allow them to benefit from more ideas. There will also be an adjustment to the length of time the president and vice president will serve a term. Under the new reforms, the term of the president and vice president will be increased from 2 to 3 years. This change will take effect from the next presidential and vice presidential election, which is due in March of this year. Cricket West Indies boss Dr. Kishore Shallow hailed the passage of these reforms as a landmark achievement. The governance reform process has been a strategic priority for Cricket West Indies, undergoing extensive discussions and consultations over the past few years, including insights from the Webby report. Another change will be having more parity among genders, as more women independent directors will be appointed to the board to enhance gender representation in decision making, ensuring a broader range of expertise and perspectives. That's sports. We're going to be back with more at 6:05.
Sports at 5 was brought to you by Total Tools. They almost always have it.
Since 2016, 156,000 more Jamaicans are working. This is more than any other time in our history. Your government is caring for you. The time brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister is
5:31.
The future is here with Infinity Cooperative Credit Union Jamaica Limited. Educom and Gateway have joined forces to bring you more convenience, innovation, and opportunities to achieve your dreams. Enjoy excellent service and seamless financial solutions, all designed for your lifestyle. Whether it's loans, savings, or insurance, we're here to make your financial journey effortless. Infinity Cooperative Credit Union Jamaica Limited, where possibilities are endless.
More savings, more choices. Get active with Active Home Center. The one-stop shop for everything for your home. We have more savings, more choices, unbelievable prices. Wide selection with the latest style. The kitchen, bathroom, right down to the tile. Buy the hottest items on spot, don't miss out. Best options under one roof, no doubt. More savings, more choices.
Visit us in store or online at www.activehomecenter.com.
We have more savings, more choices.
For over 30 years, Chris and Charles has been financing your goals, dreams, creating your great moments. Celebrate the occasion with us. Borrow $1 million, pay less than $25,000 monthly, and get 30% off your processing fees. No guarantor needed. Call 876-920-4189 or WhatsApp 876-838-9028. Conditions apply. When you think loans, think Chris and Charles.
Yes, it's tax time. March 17 is the due date for your income tax returns. Self-employed individuals are required to file their annual returns SO4 and estimated return SO4A with income tax, education tax, NHT, and NIS due and payable on one return. Companies are required to file the ITO2, which is the annual return, and the estimated return ITO7. Visit jamaicatax.gov.jm or call 888-TAX-HELP for details. Tax Administration Jamaica, working together to serve you even better.
Tune in to Cliff Hughes Online from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. as we broadcast live from the Cyber Smart Conference 2025 at the AC Marriott Hotel, Tuesday, February 11. The inaugural Cyber Smart Conference under the theme Stay Safe in Cyberspace will address the growing threats of cybercrime and cybersecurity challenges. Learn how to fend off hackers at the Cyber Smart Conference 2025. So tune in to Cliff Hughes Online from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Tuesday, February 11. It's the Cyber Smart Conference 2025 at the AC Marriott Hotel. All this and more only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. This broadcast is brought to you by the Ministry of National Security. Nationwide 90 FM wants to help you find your home sweet home with all things real estate. A 15-minute program during Nationwide This Morning every Wednesday at 8:35 a.m. All Things Real Estate gives you expert advice on how to navigate the process of owning any real estate, from residential and commercial to industrial or even vacant real estate. We'll guide you through every square foot of information. Now, let's turn that for sale into sold with All Things Real Estate every Wednesday at 8:35 a.m. on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media.
Cover Story is brought to you by
Multilink. Roll with control. Use Multilink. Safe, fast, and accepted in more locations.
Multilink, access every time, everywhere I go. Multilink, 24/7 access for me. It's just a win-win when we use Multilink. This card is Jamaican built, yeah. Fast and secure, you can use anywhere. Spend while supporting the economy.
Look for the Multilink logo on your card and benefit from Jamaica's largest debit payment network.
Multilink, 24/7 access for me.
What would I do without my Multilink?
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us here Nationwide at 5. I'm Cliff Hughes.
Good afternoon, listeners. I'm Ricardo Brooks. Good afternoon, Cliff.
Good afternoon, Ricardo.
How are you?
I'm all right. You?
I'm doing good.
You went to the barber?
I did.
Stop starving him.
If you don't want to tell me so the trim look good, you can just tell me that. That's all right.
All right.
Yeah.
You know, cover story this afternoon, Professor of Sedimentary Geology at the University of the West Indies, Simon Mitchell, is warning that more tsunami alerts could be looming. This following last Saturday's warning from the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, ODPEM, on the heels of an earthquake off the coast of, in the Caribbean Sea. Yes, the 7.6 magnitude quake struck on Saturday evening. Its epicenter was located 209 miles southwest of Georgetown, the capital of the Cayman Islands, with a depth of 10 kilometers.
Okay, the simple fact is that when you get an earthquake of something around 7, there is a potential that an earthquake, certainly offshore, at 7 can generate a tsunami. So what happens is, usually for us, it's the specific tsunami warning system that actually comes into effect, and they will immediately issue a tsunami warning, and that will stay in force until you can confirm that there was no tsunami associated with that large earthquake.
That's Simon Mitchell, Professor of Sedimentary Geology at the University of the West Indies. Well, that tsunami advisory has triggered questions about Jamaica's responsiveness. The opposition is they're leading the questioning. They're demanding answers regarding what they believe was a critical lack of information about the tsunami warning. According to the spokesman on local government, Natalie Nita Garvey, the public was only advised after the warning was lifted.
On Saturday, ODPEM posted that warning on social media with a timestamp Saturday, February 8, 2024 at 10 p.m. The release further stated that although Jamaica was issued an advisory for a possible tsunami, at no point was a warning issued for the island.
ODPEM said the main areas of concern were Honduras and the Cayman Islands. In response to the criticism, ODPEM's Acting Director General, Richard Thompson, he's saying that the events surrounding last Saturday's earthquake and the subsequent tsunami advisory did not rise to the level that required an alert to the public.
To discuss further, we have with us the Acting Director General of ODPEM, Richard Thompson, and Professor of Sedimentary Geology at the UWI Mona, Simon Mitchell. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Mr. Thompson, are you there?
Yeah, good evening.
Good afternoon, sir. Let me begin with you. When I heard of and was notified by alerts coming in from Associated Press, the USGS, the U.S. Geological Survey, was after 7. And they were all saying a tsunami advisory, and some saying advisory, some saying alert, was issued for several islands, including Jamaica. But we heard nothing from ADPEM until 10 o'clock. Why?
All right, look, we have a national tsunami plan and protocol that have clear guidelines as to how we operate for tsunamis. So tsunamis in general can be a local tsunami, regional tsunami, and a distant tsunami. And based on where it happened, then there are different protocols for countries. What we get, our main area of contact as it relates to tsunamis is the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center. And the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center will take their information almost real time from tidal gauges or buoys within the global tsunami network and give that data to and generate information. When they pick up that data, they generate information from that data and send it out to the various countries. What they send out, it's not a tsunami warning, it's not a tsunami watch. They send it out as tsunami messages in the forms of bulletins. Now, when you pick up that bulletin, or when Jamaica pick up that bulletin from the Tsunami Warning Center to say that an earthquake has happened at sea, it has the potential to create a tsunami, you are standing by for further information. Once we pick up that, we move to a level 2 process where we start giving advisory notification to the National Tsunami Response Grouping. JDF, police, fire brigade, port authorities, the local authorities, the fisheries division or fisheries agency, Ministry of Health, all those persons will get their advisory. We operate at 3 levels in Jamaica: national, local, and the community level. Once the advisory is given to the local authority is now pull the community apparatus into the picture through the community emergency response teams. Now you are staying now and you're waiting on information because this is for your regional event where you have up to 3 hours in terms of a possibility of you getting an impact. They are pulling additional information from those tidal gauges. If those tidal gauges say that, for argument's sake, say that a tsunami has been detected, then we go to level 3, where you start giving your public advice. So your public advisory would be issued where you're saying to persons living on the coast, for persons to stay away from beaches, for persons to stay away from rivers that drains into the sea.
So just for a moment, just first to get it clear. So you're saying we did not go beyond a level 2?
Level 2 because no tsunami was generated.
So
at the source.
So local stakeholders were advised, but not
all the local stakeholders that are a part of the National Tsunami Setup. So we have the NEOC, which ADPEM heads the NEOC, would be the National Tsunami ACAD, or National Tsunami Warning Center. Met Service is a National Tsunami focal point, and police is auxiliary to that focal point. We use those entities because they operate 24 hours. So Met Service have a duty forecaster that work right through the night. Police, I command, and the police communication center work through the night. So once those information comes in, we can process them and do the necessary activity that we have to do.
Mr. Thompson,
so the entire process was triggered.
Mr. Thompson, the process you outlined at the top of the conversation sounds very involved. Just so we're clear, at the point that an earthquake strikes, what is the average time by which a tsunami is expected to make landfall?
So it's dependent on where the earthquake happened.
All right. So in this instance,
you have distant tsunamis, meaning it is outside of our regional space, Caribbean and the Americas. You have regional earthquakes that can generate tsunamis, so it's within the Caribbean and Americas basin. And then you have your local events, which means that a tsunami would have happened at sea, an earthquake, would have happened at sea, has the potential to generate a tsunami, and it's within your local space. Once that happens, you move straight to a tsunami watch, where public advisory goes out immediately, because now you're operating less than 1 hour.
Okay, so in the instance of it happening in the Caribbean Sea, what's the average time that you expect?
You can have up to 3 hours for you to be impacted. 3 hours or more for you to be impacted, dependent on
where
it happened.
And so you're saying to our listeners this afternoon that because it happened out at sea, in the Caribbean Sea, you had 3 hours, you activated in terms of telling all stakeholders, but you did not yet get to the point where the public needed to be told.
Exactly.
Hold the line for us. After the break, we bring into the discussion Professor Mitchell. Stay with us.
Clear your barrels and personal shipments with ease and convenience. Request a customs contactless clearance today through CCP at jca.gov.jm. The time by the Jamaica Customs Agency is
5:45.
Imagine opening a bank account without ever leaving your home. Well, at CIBC Caribbean, we've changed the game. Open a new CIBC savings or checking account completely online using your computer or phone, anywhere, anytime. No need to visit the bank, no waiting in line. Just apply, verify, and sign your documents, all online. It's secure, seamless, and 100% digital. Open your new CIBC account by applying online today.
Things can change in an instant. While you're on the go, caught up in your own world, don't miss out on the most important update. You, pedestrians, look out before you step out. A message from the Ministry of Science, Energy, Telecommunications and Transport.
Thank you so much for staying with us here on Nationwide at 5. A powerful earthquake struck in the Caribbean Sea, triggering concerns that a tsunami was possible. It did not materialize, but there are questions about how quickly ODPEM advised the country. We are being told of a tiered system, and the acting director general indicating that we had not gotten to the point where public notice was necessary. But Mr. Thompson, the question is, what would have been the harm, considering how fast the information was spreading? People like Cliff, myself, we saw it in the international media being reported. What would have been the harm of the local agency saying, this has happened, we are aware of it, our protocols have been activated, but there is no immediate danger, just so that lacuna and that vacuum in information did not exist, such that people were running up and down online in panic?
Well, yeah, there's no harm, and that's something given what we were seeing, where there was that gap where we came to the public now and say, this is how the national protocol operate. So we do understand that we have to navigate that space where there's a lot of information on social media, there's a lot of misinformation at times on social media, and so we have to navigate that space now where we have to look at our protocol based on the current environment in which we're operating, where you can have misinformation and information gap to run that. One of the things that you don't want to have in doing that, where you give information to say there is no threat now to Jamaica, and person just see no threat and don't read that information to say no and stay tuned for further information.
But isn't that a function of effective communication, Mr. Thompson? And it's not for the first time you and I have had a conversation. Let me just finish the question. Have had a conversation of how effective ODPEM is at communicating. The last time you said that you were bolstering the apparatus, the communication apparatus. Where are you with that now?
No, well, we have the situation now where that communication apparatus is bolstered, within this current.
But you didn't talk to us until 10 o'clock on Saturday.
Yeah, but what I've said before is that you were operating on a national protocol in terms of how we operate for tsunamis, for regional tsunamis. What we're saying now is that given the fact that we saw where there is the possibility for misinformation, that's something now that we have to have a relook at to say, how do we now communicate to negate and kill that noise as it relates to the misinformation?
Mr. Thompson, this is the second time you're making that giving us that assurance. You gave us that assurance before when there was a communication gap in an instance where there was a disaster alert that needed to be issued. And I'm saying, why hasn't that been fixed yet? That you're still coming back to say you're going to have a look at it.
It took you, Mr. Thompson, I think this is of concern to a lot of people. It took our Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management 3.5 hours after the quake struck, sometimes short, I think it was 6:23 or 6:32, before we heard a word from ODPEM. That is not acceptable.
If even to just say, we're aware there is no immediate danger to Jamaica, the protocols have been, that kind of thing helps with confidence that the country is on top of what it needs to be. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You accept that?
Yeah.
Okay. I gather you've got to go, Mr. Thompson, or are you going to stay a little longer with us?
No, man, I'm staying.
Okay. Professor of Sedimentary Geology, Professor Mitchell, 7.6 is a huge magnitude. Why?
It's the last one, and it is sitting on the plate boundary between North America.
No, hold on. Help us. The question I'm asking is, why didn't we see more in terms of tsunami and damage on land? Given the size of the
damage on land is quite easy because there's no land nearby. Okay, so your nearest place is Cayman Islands. So you're not going to see that much damage because, again, it's a big earthquake. Yes, there's no doubt it's a big earthquake, but the seismic waves decay off as they go away. So as they go twice as far, they're a quarter, and et cetera, like that. Mm-hmm. So you don't see that much damage once you get a reasonable distance away from the epicenter, and the epicenter is a long way away.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the concern with these big anything that's a big earthquake like this, it can cause two things. One, it can change the height of the seafloor. Now, this is the type of earthquake that didn't do that. But you don't know immediately whether that's the case. It's unlikely in this place. The second one is it causes an underwater landslide. So you get a big amount of rock that falls down, and it creates a big wave that goes out. Mm-hmm. Now, you don't know that tsunami has been generated unless it's picked up by some boys or by a country. Now, how many boys are out there in the sea recording the sea level? I don't know. I don't think there's that many across the Caribbean. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't be very, happy in waiting to see what the boys say because there's not that many of them.
Mm-hmm.
The Boxing Day tsunami, which everybody remembers in 2010, I mean, that disaster, in 2004. That disaster basically awakened everybody in the world to tsunami. There was no warning.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? It happened very close to some people, and they immediately saw the wave. It happened to other people further away. This is why we have set up around the world these tsunami warning systems. Okay, and you have different people. As the director of ODPEM says, the Pacific looks after the Caribbean region. Now, the reason they say that there's a potential of a tsunami is because there is a potential of a tsunami.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you get that information, I believe that you should send it out immediately. For one simple reason is that even if you send it out now, for instance, now, if we said there was another big earthquake and there was a tsunami that could have been generated, how long does it take people to find that information out?
Mm-hmm.
It takes a long time.
Yes.
Okay, you might be an hour down, you might be 2 hours down, you might be on the road and not doing these things. It's going to be radio bulletins and things like this, and social media is going to actually tell you that something's gone on.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if it does hit, if you do get a tsunami, you need the advanced time to understand it and make a decision about what you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you don't get that, now, okay, fine, it might be 3 hours away. I don't think that was 3 hours away, by the way. But 3 hours is the other side of the Caribbean basin. But it might be 3 hours away. Even if it's 3 hours away, you've got to make some plans. You've got to evacuate people out of places.
Mm-hmm.
This is what they do in places where you get big earthquakes. Because if you get a wave, even if it's just 1.5 meters high, and it runs onshore a long way, it kills people.
Yeah.
It destroys property. It does things. So I think that we have to take this a little bit more seriously than we have been taking it.
That is sounding very euphemistically, Professor. You're saying that, listen, we have got to shape up. What happened last Saturday should not have happened.
No, I think that we should be in a warning situation, and we should send it out immediately, because that's why we've set up these warning systems around the world. They're set up so that people can notify their population.
Yes.
If it doesn't happen, let's all go say, yeah, that's very nice, let's go have a drink and celebrate it didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
If it does happen, and people are killed, well, and you didn't make the actual warning in time, what does that say?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, that's my concern about these things. I think that where we have the potential to actually protect people's lives, we should try and protect people's lives.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And Professor, what are some of the warning signs that have been used across the world? So I know in some countries, for example, there may be some kind of horn or alert system that goes off. What are some of the best practices?
Yeah, in some places in the Caribbean, you go to Puerto Rico, they've done a very good job there, and they've got horns all over the place. If you go, even in Jamaica, in places like Old Harbour Bay, they've actually got some horns there and that sort of thing. So, and I think some of the resorts also have that sort of thing to warn about these things.
Mm-hmm.
Those are really a tsunami right on top of you. If you feel shaking, if you feel a very, very big earthquake, and you're by the beach,
run.
Go away from the beach. Just as simple as that. Just get out the beach. Get everybody together and say, look, walk inland, get as far as you can, away from the beach. If nothing happens, nothing happens.
But run to higher ground. Run to higher ground. Simple.
Go to higher ground. Get as many buildings behind you as possible. Get as many trees behind you as possible, because they will stop the waves to some degree.
People in Portmore. Sorry, finish the thought, Professor.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, people in Portmore, for example, because that's what I thought first. Where do they run to?
There's not a lot of places, but again, getting further away from the seafront is the best thing, because the waves, as they impact buildings, will slowly decay. So they are not going to come in all the way. I mean, the first bits will hit the first buildings, and then you'll get a rising water level. Now, if you're in far enough, just a rising water level, providing it's not moving that quickly, is not going to kill you. Mm-hmm. So you have to get in. I mean, if Portmore's flat, that's one of the big problems. Depends on the direction. If the direction is wrong and it comes into Kingston Harbour, it can actually really do some serious damage and ponding in there. If you're on the sort of western side of Portmore, you can sort of run up into Port Henderson Hill. So I think what you're trying to do is do that. If you're in a building, get to a higher level of building. If you've got a chance, get to a higher level. Get 1 story up, 2 stories up will save your life.
Yeah.
I think you just have to think about what is the best way. Thinking about this wave might come in. It might be, 1, 2 meters, 6 feet, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Where do I get away from that? And I have to do it very, very quickly.
Professor, you were beginning to tell me about where this one occurred last Saturday in terms of the plates.
Yes, this is not directly on our fort. I mean, we sort of talk about our fort, and we talk about the one that we talked about these a number of times. But the one that comes through Jamaica actually extends off the west of Jamaica and heads off towards Central America. And the one south of Cuba, which is the one we've seen the big earthquakes on recently, heads off towards the Cayman Islands and stops. And it joins what we call the Cayman Spreading Center, which is where new crust is created. And that spreading center goes down and joins our fort, and then both of those run off towards Central America. And it's just west of where the Cayman Spreading Center and our fort meet that this earthquake actually happened at that time.
All right. Thank you very much, Professor Simon Mitchell of UW-Mona. I think Mr. Thompson left us. Thank you very much, Professor.
Okay. No, you're welcome, and I think it's very important that we talk about these things.
Yeah.
Yes, appreciate it.
Thanks to Richard Thompson as well.
Yeah. It is simply not acceptable. 3.5 hours?
Yeah.
Another word from ADPEM?
If even to just reassure people, especially, and my concern was because there was so much panic online. People didn't know what to do. Was Jamaica under a warning?
They wanted to know what was happening with Jamaica.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's where we're going to leave it for the cover story. The headlines at 6 are next.
Cover story was brought to you by
Multilink. Roll with control. Use Multilink. Safe, fast, and accepted in more locations.
Do you have a consumer-related issue? Want to learn more about matters concerning you as a consumer? Well, keep it locked to Nationwide 90 FM for the Consumer Hour with me, Nora Gay Banton. Weekdays from 9 to 10 a.m. For all your consumer-centric matters, stay tuned to the Consumer Hour on Nationwide 90 FM, a revolution in media.
Calling all West Kingston residents. Nationwide at 5 is coming to you live from the lawns of Tivoli Gardens High School on Thursday, February 13 from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Come out and hear young people discussing matters of importance. That's right. Live on Nationwide at 5 on Thursday, February 13, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. The annual West Kingston Youth Forum at Tivoli Gardens High School with your Member of Parliament, Desmond McKenzie. All this and more only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. This broadcast is brought to you by West Kingston Constituency Office.
The time brought to you by Guardian Life. Live secure, live easy is
6:01.
Nationwide headlines at 6.
Good evening with the headlines at 6. I'm Nora Gay Banton. Acting Director General of the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, ODPEM, Richard Thompson, says the events surrounding last Saturday's earthquake in the Caribbean Sea and subsequent tsunami advisory did not rise to the level that required an alert to the public. He sought to explain following criticism that ODPEM dropped the ball on alerting the country. On Saturday, a powerful 7.6 magnitude earthquake was recorded in the Caribbean Sea, north of Honduras and southwest of the Cayman Islands. The U.S. Geological Survey reported that the earthquake occurred at around 6:23 p.m. southwest of Georgetown in the Cayman Islands. Tsunami advisories were subsequently issued for Puerto Rico, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and the British Virgin Islands. The advisory for those islands was later cancelled. However, it was close to 4 hours later on Saturday night that the first advisory of a tsunami warning for Jamaica was posted by ODPEM. This drew widespread criticisms from the public on the late response from the country's premier disaster alert agency. One such criticism came on Sunday from opposition spokesperson on local government Natalie Nita Garvey. According to Nita Garvey, Jamaicans were left in the dark on the warnings and what measures to take. Mr. Thompson sought to clarify the matter.
Level 1, you get those information issued from Pacific Tsunami Warning Center. Level 2, you get that information and you start issuing your advisory within your local domain. When you move to your level 3, which is a tsunami watch, is when the tidal gauges would have been pushing information to the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center that a tsunami has in fact been generated at source. So once you get that information that the earthquake has created a tsunami, then you now move to level 3, which is giving information to the public.
Mr. Thompson says the events following the 7.6 magnitude earthquake did not rise to a level 3. He says they were operating at level 2, where all the information was issued to the relevant stakeholders. Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness says the government will be investing billions in water projects this year. He says the investment is to support the National Water Commission's thrust to increase its supply of potable water island-wide to 85%.
The fact that a pipe runs across your yard or in front of your yard doesn't mean that you have the water. You have to be connected to it and there has to be water in the pipe. So the objective of the NWC is to run their pipes into more communities, past more yards, so that you can connect to it. So the objective of the NWC is to expand their footprint from 78% to 85%.
The Prime Minister was speaking at a groundbreaking ceremony for Phase 2 of the Whitehall to Newmarket water supply project in northwest St. Elizabeth on the weekend. He says already the NWC has over $7.3 billion under contract for water projects.
The government is going to step up to the plate and put, I'm not going to say how much until the budget is read, but we're going to put in a lot of money into water projects to support the NWC. Already, the NWC has $7.3 billion of projects under contract, meaning that they have gone through project development, they have gone through procurement, and now they have signed contracts with the various contractors to execute, like this one. All that they are waiting on now is for the budget to be read and the warrant to be issued so that they can say, all right, contractor, I mobilize you. I give you some money to start. And that, is a little process that we go through. We read the budget and then we just bust the NWC. We're not busting a pipe, but we're going to just bust the NWC.
Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness. Former Prime Minister P.J. Patterson has offered a scathing assessment of the Holness administration's stewardship of the country's affairs. Patterson slammed the government's management of the island's road network, health system, and what he described as the alarming levels of poverty in the country. It's some of the most strident comments against a sitting administration from the former Prime Minister since he retired in 2006. Patterson is the country's most successful political leader, winning an unprecedented 3 terms in government. With the general election looming, the former Prime Minister has decided to wade into the political arena.
I've been called from the pavilion and I'm pleased to come as an opening batsman to the series which is going to be held in Region 6.
By his assessment, Prime Minister Andrew Holness and his government and his cabinet have done a poor job on several fronts. He started with the state of the nation's roads.
Not even before the days of asphalt, when it was Rockstone Road, have I seen the roads in Jamaica in such a state of dilapidation and disrepair.
Patterson next turned his attention to healthcare. The former Prime Minister says the sector is bordering on complete failure. He took particular aim at the delays at the Cornwall Regional Hospital.
Starting with 1.2 billion and it is now 21.5 billion and mounting, and the hospital is still incomplete. Nowhere else in the world but Jamaica could you have a project like that and not even one head rule.
The former Prime Minister P.J. Patterson was speaking at a recent forum put on by the PNP Region 6. Those were the headlines at 6. I'm Nora Gay Banton. Sports is next.
Enough
power tool, big to small. Jackama figure dig the wall.
Upper Total Tools.
Beat walker figure trim the lawn. We have everything a job demand.
Total Tools. We rent them, sell them and fix them. Also give Total Tools a call. When you say home improvement, landscape construction, or Total Tools are your option. Home improvement, landscape construction, Total Tools are your option.
Total Tools located at 102 Main Street, Ocho Rios, 34 Sly Road, Kingston. And lot C6 Jacksaw, Sentence Bay. Call us today.
Home is closer than you think when you save towards your dream home with the Homeowner Savings Plan, or HOSP, from CIBC Caribbean. With HOSP, you unlock preferential interest rates to earn more interest on your savings and pay less with a discounted mortgage rate. You can even borrow up to an additional US $5,000 or its equivalent to help you with your closing costs. Get home faster when you save the HOSP way with CIBC.
Hi there. Here's some good news for these trying times. Quote, "By God's word, I can see where I'm going. They throw a beam of light on my dark path." Unquote. Psalm 119, verse 105. Listen for God's Word weekdays at 5:45 a.m. and 12:55 p.m. through
Oasis. Stop by for a refreshing drink and share a God perspective for the day.
Oasis. Weekdays 5:45 a.m. and 12:55 p.m. right here on Nationwide, a revolution in media.
The rebroadcast of the Oasis can be heard weekdays at 5:45 a.m.
Tune in to Cliff Hughes Online from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. as we broadcast live from the Cyber Smart Conference 2025 at the AC Marriott Hotel, Tuesday, February 11. The inaugural Cyber Smart Conference, under the theme Stay Safe in Cyberspace, will address the growing threats of cybercrime and cybersecurity challenges. Learn how to fend off hackers at the Cyber Smart Conference 2025. So tune in to Cliff Hughes Online from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Tuesday, February 11. It's the Cyber Smart Conference 2025 at the AC Marriott Hotel. All this and more only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. This broadcast is brought to you by the Ministry of National Security.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to Sports here on Nationwide 90 FM. I'm Wayne Walker. Jamaica were still holding a 1-0 lead over St. Lucia in their CONCACAF Under-17 World Cup qualifier. The game being played in Guatemala City. The Jamaicans are aiming ultimately for a third appearance at the World Cup, and their first since Mexico 2011. And they're just in the start of the second half of that game. National Senior Football Team coach Steve McLaren says yesterday's 1-1 draw with Trinidad and Tobago at the Tony Spalding Sports Complex was not a true reflection of his team's performance. Josiah Trimmingham, who plays his club football at Montego Bay United, scored at both ends of the field, as after putting Trinidad ahead, he turned into his own net with seconds left in the game. McLaren, this was his reaction to the draw.
I was pleased with the final third play. Better, we created chances, more crosses, pullbacks, had opportunities, had chances, and it's something that we worked on. We need to work on even more, and that's always the final thing. But no, I thought in both halves really, we got into areas in the wide. I thought Green did well in terms of what he did. But we did deliver crosses, we did get fullbacks forward, but it's something that we do need to develop. And when we did, we had opportunities, chances, but we failed to take them. I think we deserved that at the end. We did deserve to lose.
National Senior Football Team coach Steve McLaren and the coach of the Trinidad and Tobago team, Dwight York, says the fans were the big winners on the day, actually.
I expected the game to be a very competitive game, and I hope the fans that who's come in to watch the game is walked away and see two of probably the best teams in the Caribbean areas go head to head. It was highly entertaining, very aggressive at times, which we expect. Some good stuff in between all of that. I think in the end, I suppose that we will probably be a little bit disappointed in terms of the result, but I've always stated before, I have a bigger vision in terms of where we want to be. And this was a good test for us against a very good Jamaican team, and just to try and close the gap and see how far we are.
Trinidad and Tobago's national football team coach, Dwight York. Crystal Palace are through to the 5th round of the English FA Cup after beating Doncaster Rovers by 2-0 in their 4th round clash at the Eco Power Stadium today. Daniel Moniez gave the Eagles the lead after 32 minutes. Justin Devaney applied the gloss in the 55th minute.
It's Kamada to roll it in towards Mateta, and then it's thumped home straight from the training ground. Clever ball threaded through Devaney. This time finds a quite glorious finish. He missed the simple one, but he finishes the much harder chance, and Palace do have daylight. That good Doncaster spell short-lived, and surely now Crystal Palace on their way to a date with Millwall in the next round.
Jamaica's reigning world 400 meters champion Antonio Watson says he's confident that his season opening performance at the Camperdown Classic at the National Stadium this past weekend has set him up nicely for the rest of the season. Watson clocked 46.03 seconds in his first race in months after missing most of last season due to injury. The former Petersfield High School standout crossed the line first in one of 5 segments of the 400 meters at the National Stadium, but his time was second fastest on the night. Watson missed the Paris Olympic Games, but says the long layoff could be a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, it gave me opportunity to rest my body and also my mind, and it really brought me back down to ground level.
About the performance itself, Watson says he was satisfied with the outcome.
I wasn't worried about the time. It is my fastest season opener ever, so that's a plus. Noted that I'm coming back from a injury-prone season and running that time of the year, I feel good, and I'm just hoping to do better going forward.
Antonio Watson. Meanwhile, Zandrian Barnes of Sprintex stormed the field when he won his section of the men's 400 meters in a world-leading 44.97 seconds. The 23-year-old Barnes came within 7/100ths of a second off his lifetime best of 44.90 and says he knew he was capable of that performance given what he's doing in training.
My training times are really well, they are very great. So, coming in this race, I just try to execute as best as possible. Because that has been one of the biggest downfall over the years, executing my race. So, I just try to do that as best as possible.
Zandrian Barnes. Cricket West Indies has introduced term limits for the top positions of president and vice president after a special meeting of its members in Trinidad yesterday. Cricket West Indies says its full member shareholders have officially approved a historic set of governance reforms. The term limits are at the forefront of the reforms with the introduction of a new term limit of a maximum of 3 terms of 3 years each for the positions of president and vice president. The regional cricket governing body said the change will allow them to benefit from more ideas. There'll also be an adjustment to the length of time the president and vice president will serve a term. Under the new reforms, the term of the president and vice president will be increased from 2 to 3 years. This change will take effect from the next presidential and vice presidential election due in March of this year. Cricket West Indies President Dr. Kishore Shallow hailed the passage of these reforms as a landmark achievement. The governance reform process has been a strategic priority for Cricket West Indies, undergoing extensive discussions and consultations over the past few years, including insights from the Webby report. Another change will be having more parity among genders, as more women independent directors will be appointed to the board to enhance gender representation in decision making, ensuring a broader range of expertise and perspectives. Jamaica's race car driver Alex Powell turned in a remarkable performance at round 3 of the 2025 F4 Middle East Championship held at the Dubai Autodrome at the weekend. Powell, a Mercedes junior driver representing RS GP, showcased his talent, securing pole position in both qualifying sessions and delivering 2 sensational race victories. Powell initially demonstrated his raw speed by topping both qualifying sessions. However, a penalty saw his fastest lap from the first session deleted, relegating him to a second-place start for Race 1. Despite this setback, he remained focused and determined. Race 1 proved challenging for him as he suffered a puncture on the formation lap. Despite the adversity, he battled hard from his second place starting position, steadily dropping back but managing to secure a 9th place finish, ensuring crucial points and the front row start for the reverse grid of race 2. And in race 2, he seized the opportunity after a safety car intervention. He expertly took the lead on the restart and controlled the race to the checkered flag, claiming his first victory of the weekend in dominant fashion. The final race of the weekend provided an electrifying climax. Paul started strongly but was overtaken by Kia Nakaruma Berta, who built a lead of over 1 second entering the final lap. And finally in sports at this time, Spanish star Carlos Alcaraz ended a tight final against Australia's Alex de Minaur to win the Rotterdam Open and to claim the first indoor hardcourt title of his career. It was a 17th ATP title for the 21-year-old top seed, but his first since winning in Beijing in September. The 4-time Grand Slam winner had to fight hard for the victory after third seed de Minaur won the second set to take the match into a decider. But a break of serve from Alcaraz in the 6th game of the final set proved decisive, and he went on to win the next 2 games to seal a 6-4, 3-6, 6-2 victory. The reigning French Open and Wimbledon champion, who also claimed the US Open in 2022, has won Grand Slam titles on all 3 outdoor surfaces. Alcaraz's latest success in his first tournament back following defeat by Novak Djokovic in the Australian Open quarterfinals added another string to his bow. At the Dallas Open in Texas, Denis Shapovalov beat the second seed Casper Ruud 7-6, 6-3 to secure the third and biggest ATP title of his career. The Canadian Shapovalov, 25, also defeated top seed Taylor Fritz and third seed Tommy Paul on his way to the final. That's sports.
For all your scales and food processing equipment, call Advanced Scales and Equipment Limited at 876-968-9612-5. The time by Advanced Scales and Equipment Limited is
6:20.
Visit Marshall's Pharmacy, Greater Portmore, for all your prescription needs, gifts, personal care, household and stationery items. The temperature by Marshall's Pharmacy, Greater Portmore is
29 degrees Celsius here in the nation's capital, Kingston. It's 27 in the western city, Montego Bay.
Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, is a financial reporting firm that delivers accounting and compliance services on time. Call us today at 876-908-0486-7. Email us at clientservices@cocnjamaica.com or visit our website at www.cocnjamaica.com. COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology, and integrity.
Yeah, here? If you're tired of a cluttered office space, then you need to call Corporate Interiors International. We offer top quality industrial shelving, filing cabinets, and storage cabinets to keep your workspace organized and efficient, plus comfortable office chairs that will keep your team productive and focused. Visit us today at corporateinteriorsjm.com or call us at 876-630-0010 for more information. Corporate Interiors International. We sell solutions, not just furniture.
Good morning and welcome to the newest addition to the Nationwide News Network family on Hot 102. Good afternoon, I'm Erica Allen. I'm Elizabeth Bennett. In Nationwide News at this hour.
This is Nationwide, I'm Cliff Hughes.
And I'm Carol Narcisse.
Morning, welcome to This Morning on Hot 102.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Beverly Anderson Manley. Good morning and welcome.
For 20 years, Nationwide 90 FM has been your trusted source for breaking news, delivering critical updates when you needed them most.
3:37 in the afternoon, we interrupt to bring you more from the One Don Klansman gang trial. Another guilty verdict.
With fearless, fact-based journalism that unearthed the truth.
Between 2012 and 2018, nearly $5.5 million
was taken from the track legend.
And insightful commentary that sparked meaningful conversations and shifted perspectives.
Welcome to the front page. I'm Emily Crooks.
I am Naomi Francis.
We're pleased to be joined by Roger Clark.
From the stories that shook Jamaica,
We're having an earthquake.
to those that inspired change and left lasting impacts.
In 2014, to be dealing with an issue such as the Mario Dean case.
Nationwide 90 FM has been there, diving deep into the issues that matter most to you. As we mark 20 years of dedicated service in 2025, we honor the trust you have placed in us and reaffirm our commitment to serving you, the Jamaican people, rooted in truth, fairness, and integrity. We continue to provide incisive reporting with a foundation of accountability and respect. While we celebrate our journey, we are also focused on the future, fueled by the same passion and purpose that has always driven us. Thank you for supporting Team Revolution for 2 decades. Stay with us. The best is yet to come.
Public Opinion is brought to you by Cleasing Industrial Supplies Limited, Industrial Automation and Control Solutions.
Good evening, and welcome to Public Opinion. It's a new week, and we welcome it. A special good evening to our friends on our YouTube platform. Thank you so much for tuning in. You know, as always, we like to hear from you, so we ask you to weigh in the live section, in the comment section, on today's Public Opinion. And we're keeping the conversation going as it relates to what happened over the weekend. Leading into ODPEM's response. Now, Acting Director General of the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, ODPEM, Richard Thompson, he says the events surrounding last Saturday's earthquake in the Caribbean Sea and subsequent tsunami advisory did not rise to the level that required an alert to the public. On Saturday, a powerful 7.6 magnitude earthquake was recorded in the Caribbean Sea north of Honduras and southwest of the Cayman Islands. Now, the U.S. Geological Survey reported that the earthquake occurred at around 6:23 p.m. southwest of Georgetown in the Cayman Islands. Subsequent tsunami advisories were issued for Puerto Rico, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and the British Virgin Islands. The advisory for those islands was later cancelled. However, it was close to 4 hours later on Saturday night that the first advisory of a tsunami warning for Jamaica was posted by ODPEM. And it was posted on their social media platform X. Now, this drew widespread criticisms from members of the public. Mr. Thompson sought to clarify the matter.
Level 1, you get those information issued from Pacific Tsunami Warning Center. Level 2, you get that information and you start issuing your advisory within your local domain. When you move to your level 3, which is a tsunami watch, is when the tidal gauges would have been pushing information to the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center that a tsunami has in fact been generated at source. So once you get that information that the earthquake has created a tsunami, then you now move to level 3, which is giving information to the public.
So yes, basically there are levels to this thing, and it did not amount to a level 3 where we, the public, get information. It was at level 2 where, they circulate information in their internal body, I suppose. So, in light of that situation and previous matters concerning ODPEM, we want to know, how do you rate ODPEM's performance on a scale of 1 to 5? And we know that 1 is the least, 5 being great, and 1 being the least of your rating. So how do you rate ODPEM's performance on a scale of 1 to 5? I'll start with the comments on Facebook, where Original Boss Lady is saying 10 out of 10. We ask for 5 though, but all right. Christopher Isaac says the body has been here for a very long time and has done well. Let's stop pretending. Mark Ranger is saying Oddpem MIA for decades. Yeah. Nicholson K and Nicola is saying if 5 is blah, blah, blah. Let's go again. Nicholson is saying if 5 is the highest as per the circumstances, it's a 4. While Philip Jackson is saying as human tendencies play a big role in all endeavor, when it comes to man, yeah, I'll give them a 4. And Natalie Winter says fair with areas for improvement needed. And Cheryl Hamilton is giving Oddpem's performance a 3.5. All right, let me see if I can get to the comments on our Instagram platform. One Leprodan give them -0. That never depend on scale, but all right. Mrs. Warner Sabrina is giving them a -10. Yeah. I think we said 1 out of 5, but I broke the scale. All right. Mrs. Warner is saying, in moments of crisis, clear and timely communication is critical. After the earthquake, Jamaicans were left scrambling to separate fact from fiction. Oddpem should have issued an official emergency bulletin with factual guidance to prevent panic and ensure people knew what actions, if any, were necessary. And she's saying that the lack of clear information was unacceptable. Sabrina Grant saying, honestly, I'll give them a 3.5. Reason being, Oddpem has to depend on other agencies like the Met Office for information on earthquakes and tsunami to update the country, but they play an important role in the country still. Wow, yeah, Boss Lady is saying 10. Like I said, when I broke the scale, because we say 1 out of 5. In public opinion this evening, how do you rate Oddpem's performance on a scale of 1 to 5? Let's see what our YouTubers saying. I'm seeing several 5s. Yeah, 5.5. Paul Peart. Robert McKenzie is saying 5. Marjorie 5. Sharon Forbes is saying 4 out of 5. Yeah. Glory saying 5 out of 5. Gathwick is saying, let me see what Gathwick is saying. They can get a 4. We make much of little sometimes. I trust them to inform us when necessary. No need to panic. Yeah? Let me see if I can get in a few more here. Mona Smith is questioning when uno get clear information, there's a word missing there, Mona. When uno get clear information, uno no either. Always looking somebody to blame. Tori say 4 out of 5. Bev Thompson say 4.5. Yeah. Angie favorably is saying 4.5 and they're doing their best. Glory believes that they've been performing excellent. Yeah. Papa is saying, I give 5 out of 5. The other islands had to cancel, but either way, an alert was issued. Barbara Ellington says they usually do a great job. Yeah. Erica Barnett is saying 5. There was no need to alarm the public, and she's saying we should use our platform to inform the residents what to do in case of a tsunami. I can tell you what I've seen, and I'll go to the X platform of Oddpem because I recall seeing, let me see if I can find it. I recall seeing them putting out an alert. So some tsunami safety tip, they did a thread. They say tsunamis can be devastating, but knowing proactive measures can save lives. And they say here are some crucial tsunami safety tips. So 1, recognize the warning signs. Tsunamis are often triggered by an underwater disturbance, which includes earthquakes. It went on to say if you feel a strong or prolonged earthquake, head to higher ground or move inland. A quick drop in the ocean level can also indicate an incoming tsunami. I want to tell you, say, over Portmore kind of dark because I don't know if, you know. Yeah. All right. Oddpem is saying move to higher ground. And I just say it there. If you're near the coast and feel an earthquake, don't wait for an official warning. Tsunami waves can hit within minutes. Head to higher ground or at least 100 feet above sea level to escape danger zone. Yeah? and they're saying to avoid the beach. Stay informed, and if you can't evacuate and can't go to higher ground, head to a sturdy building, go to the top floor, and stay away from windows. They're telling us to be cautious with aftershocks. After a tsunami, aftershocks can occur and they may trigger further waves. So they're telling us to stay alert. They're saying we should prepare ahead of time. If you live in a tsunami-prone area, create an emergency kit with essentials like water, food, first aid, medication, and important documents. They're telling us to know our evacuation routes. Yeah? Know our evacuation routes. So those are just some tips from ODPEM as it relates to tsunami safety. Yeah? And we implore you to just listen to the alerts from ODPEM as it relates to just looking on their platforms, staying informed as they say, and just keep tuned to the official channels and also stay locked into Nationwide 90 FM. That's how we'll end this evening's Public Opinion. Do stay tuned. The Business Report is up next.
Public Opinion was brought to you by Cleasing Industrial Supplies Limited, industrial automation and control solutions.
Drive the most exciting new vehicles in Jamaica. Schedule your 2024 Ford Ranger pickup or Ford Everest 7-seater SUV test drive now. Call or visit KIG today.
The time by KIG is
6:34.
Annual eye examinations not only assess your vision but may be life-saving. Eye tests may detect serious health issues that go beyond your vision. Call IQ Optical to schedule your comprehensive eye test today. The temperature by IQ Optical is
29 degrees Celsius in Kingston, 28 out west in Montego Bay. Hello, good evening, and welcome to Nationwide's Business Report. I'm Robianne Williams. Now, President Donald Trump has said he will announce a 25% import tax on all steel and aluminum entering the U.S., a move that will have the biggest impact in Canada. Trump also said that there would be an announcement later this week about reciprocal tariffs on all countries that tax imports from the U.S., but he did not specify which nations would be targeted or if there would be any exemptions. If they charge us, we charge them. That's what he said. The move marks another escalation in Trump's trade policy, which has already sparked retaliation from China. Canada and Mexico are two of the U.S.'s biggest steel and aluminum trading partners. The U.S. accounts for about 10% of the U.K. steel industry's exports, but for some suppliers of specialty products, it is much more important than that, making up a large proportion of their overall business. China's tit-for-tat import taxes on some American goods came into effect on Monday as the trade war between the world's two biggest economies escalates and U.S. President Donald Trump threatens to hit more countries with tariffs. Beijing announced the plan on February 4, minutes after new U.S. tax of 10% on all Chinese products came into effect. On Sunday, yes, Trump said he would impose a 25% tariff on all steel and aluminum imports into the U.S. And in the currency markets at the close of trading today, it cost 157 Jamaican dollars and 96 cents to buy $1 US, 196 Jamaican dollars and 33 cents to buy $1 British pound, and 110 Jamaican dollars and 93 cents to buy the Canadian dollar. That's the Business Report. I'm Robianne Williams. Good evening.
We are the best at what we do. At Hose Assembly and Supply Limited, we supply hose fittings and tools. We guarantee we can't be beaten when price and quality are combined. You brand us the Hose and Tool Boss because we deliver the most effective industrial solutions. Come in and experience the joy of shopping with Hose Assembly and Supply Limited. Call us 876-923-3936 or visit 173 Hagley Park Road, 2 Charlesworth Crescent or Montego Bay Trade Center. Hose Assembly and Supply Limited. More than just hoses. Now open every Sunday.
Outperform, outlast. With top performance. Easy Chakama. Reliable, full stop, not comma. We have the expertise for drilling and demolition. We have the power tools for plumbers and electrician. Fancy select tools, free parts and free repairs. Free parts, free repairs. 2 to 3 years. Hilton, available at Delta Supply, 106 Hagley Park Road. Call us at 876-302-61114. Delta Supply, we service what we sell.
When last you get good bun, you don't know good bun until you have a mother's bakery bun. From you pull open the wrapper and it's soft so till. A sub bun for nice. And from when you take the first bite, love it so till. A sub bun for nice. Beg your piece.
Get your own mother's bakery bun.
I will buy one off you.
Yes, but I will charge a convenience fee.
I will take one. Me too.
Mother's Bakery Buns. A sub bun for nice. Try them today.
For all your electrical needs, visit ABC Electrical Sales. They stock a wide variety of electrical supplies including plugs, switches, panel boards and conduits, plus energy-saving fixtures. ABC Electrical Sales stocks brands like GE, Siemens, Philips, Cutler Hammer and Allen Bradley. They also offer free island-wide delivery just to suit your needs. Visit them at Shop 8, Hagley Park Plaza, Kingston 10, or call 876-754-3714-5 or 876-754-3825-8. ABC Electrical Sales, for a better choice in the electrical business.
Love is in the air and on the water with Loose Cannon's Valentine's Day Harbor Cruise, February 14, 2025. Enjoy sumptuous food and wines and treats as DJs Raga and Enz play your favorite hits. The catamaran departs from Ribis Ocean Victoria Pier downtown on February 14 at 8 p.m. Early tickets $60 or 9,000 Jamaican dollars. Purchase tickets at loosecannontours.com, Sweetwood Jerk, Bill Express or any Ribis location. For assistance, call or WhatsApp 876-495-2222. And everybody with me, yeah.
Me have to ask, why eat other snacks when sunshine has the best for you? Nature's best buns so crunchy. The flavor that sings to you, salted banana and plantain. Taste the freshness, naturally sweet. The flavor that sings to you.
Ayo, nature's best bunch. Not a mercy. This one is very classic, dedicated to all the schoolers who are taking beats.
If you've ever struggled to pass an exam, then you'll know that students today are under great pressure to get good grades and secure qualification needed to move on to higher education. The problem is that too many students are struggling alone and could really benefit from connecting with hardworking teachers and other bright students in other parts of the country and the region. Join me, Dennis Brooks, this and every Friday evening from 8 to 9, with a repeat on Saturday morning from 8 to 9. For the A-Team, a study group on radio, my team of teachers, students, and experts will break down the syllabus, giving you information, tips, and past paper questions that will help you get top grades in your upcoming exams. Follow us on Facebook Live and on Twitter and be a part of the community. It's the A-Team, Fridays at 8 p.m. with a repeat at 8 o'clock on Saturday morning. It's your free extra class on radio and social media. And it's right here on Nationwide 90 FM, the revolution in media.
Good evening. It's 18 minutes going up to 7 o'clock. This is Nationwide at 5. I'm Cliff Hughes.
And I'm Ricardo Brooks. Listeners, we're turning our attention now to that video that has emerged of a TikToker, Rosalie, essentially naked in her home. Yeah. And the allegations are this video may have been made by a member of the Jamaica Constabulary Force. The force says it's investigating the allegations of the recording and the distribution of the female in a compromising position. That's how they've described it.
The force says it's committed to maintaining the highest standards of professionalism and integrity, and that any conduct which falls short will be addressed in accordance with established procedures. The woman in the video is, of course, as you heard, TikTok personality Rosalie. Her given name is June Dixon.
What is system I do for we as poor people? The man can for police can come in my house. I've never been for that at gunpoint and then I go video me and throw it on social media. What is that? What that? What that? For you can't video me, come to my house, so you have to sting operation, you have search, video me and put me on social media. Me need answers, of course. Me need a whole heap of answer.
That's Rosalie. On Sunday, the Member of Parliament for Western St. Andrew, Anthony Hilton, he confirmed that the woman in the video was one of his constituents. He called for swift action against those who distributed the video.
If this was done by the police, as alleged, it represents a new law in policing, one that must never be tolerated by the leadership of the Jamaica Constabulary Force or by society at large. I condemn this deplorable act, and I am demanding a full and transparent investigation into this incident, with swift action taken against those responsible. No citizen should be subjected to this kind of abuse and humiliation.
Anthony Hilton, MP for Western St. Andrew, and the human rights lobby group Jamaicans for Justice is condemning what it calls the illegal recording of Miss Dixon. Its executive director, Michael Jackson, says such recordings are in breach of the protocols that govern the JCF. Ms. Jackson is demanding strong disciplinary actions against any JCF member found guilty of the act.
We have taken note that the Jamaica Constabulary Force is investigating the matter, but I take it a step further. We must demand an update of the outcome of that investigation, because while we welcome the announcement of the investigation, we must also hold the JCF to the fire to say that the public ought to be made aware of the outcome and the disciplinary actions that may be taken against any officer who was involved in that particular incident.
Michael Jackson, Executive Director of JFJ.
She was speaking today on Let's Talk Justice here on Nationwide 90 FM. Now, JFJ is also raising concern about another video, this time of a Kingston College students reportedly taken by a member of the JCF. Here's that video.
I make sure so Mr. Myrie get this. Let me see a tattoo. See her face, Bridget. Yeah? That is where you remove from him. You have your body cam? Let me see now. No, display. Take off your back.
Yeah. Joining us now to discuss JFJ's chairman, John Clark. Good evening, John.
Good evening, good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, first of all, let me get your reaction. I want to start with the video of the Kingston College students, because I wasn't quite clear why exactly they were being videoed like that and why that would have been shared publicly.
Well, there seemed to be a trend, and one wonders whether or not the force order governs this, and if it does, the extent to which the JCF will be willing to release the force orders that govern how police officers video members of the public and how those videos are released. Because it is very concerning, and while we're speaking of only 2 incidents here, I don't know if your listeners will recall another video from St. Anne where 2 gentlemen were apparently videoed and apparently heard on the video indicating to police officers that they were engaged in certain taboo behavior. And they were seen on the video, allegedly, confessing to participating in that video. And those videos were also released to the public. Now, we live in a society where everybody is looking for the quick social media clicks. But when we have these quick clicks and likes, it may very well cause damage, long-term damage to people's lives. And whilst we have many young officers who may be very active on social media and may be very willing to take out their phones and whip it out and video it and release it to the public, it may have economical consequence for all of us. Because any day, persons like Rosalie or even those gentlemen may very well decide that, well, we're going to sue, and then the state now will have to foot the bill for these officers' reckless behavior. There must be a proper protocol to protect society against officers who may very well think that it is cute to take out their video members of the public, and very well turn around costing us as publics, as the society, a very hefty bill in relation to us having to bear the cost for their negligence.
Just to be clear, John Clark, who is an attorney at law, I don't know if you made that clear.
Yes.
What is illegal about the recording and releasing of the video online?
All right, for starters, why there is a law, as we are members of the public may be aware, there are 2 laws that are at play. 1, the Constitution and the right to privacy, and then 2, there are statutes that deal with cybercrime and that deals with certain offenses in relation to videoing persons, especially when you have somebody who's naked in their home and having that image plastered around the world for everybody to see. And we have seen cases, for example, I believe there's a case involving an attorney where the attorney had sued for her private images to have been displayed to the public, and she received a judgment in the sum of $12 million. So we have to be very mindful that the JCF, the commissioner, has to ensure that we have rigorous policies in place to protect us against things like this. Because in many scenarios, if the officers are on their active public duty, it will not be Officer X who take out his phone who may be personally paying for that video being released, but maybe all of us who are very innocent of Officer X action.
Yes, taxpayers would have to foot the bill.
Yes.
And in the instance of the schoolboys, are there any protocols, standards that should govern the recording of children like that? Because obviously they're in school, in their uniform.
Well, there are laws that will govern, inevitably, how it is that we release the identity of children. But even if they're not children, there are also laws that govern how we release the identity of persons or even suspected criminals. So what we have are just a reckless disregard from our law enforcers of the law itself. And what is very concerning for me and for us as an organization is the fact that this is not the first instance, nor the second instance, nor the third instance in which we would see videos being released which ostensibly would have come from members who are supposed to be law enforcers. And so one wonders and whether or not there are sufficient protocols in place to govern this behavior, and whether or not the JCF is properly ensuring that when these things occur, that those miscreant members are found out quickly enough, that they're exposed publicly as they expose citizens, and that they're taken out of active duty.
Yeah.
Because if one recalls the incident in St. Anne, there were persons who were calling for an investigation. We heard that the JCF was investigating, but to now we have no update, and that is why our executive director said that it is good to investigate, but it's also equally important to ensure the public is aware of what is the result of the investigation.
Yeah. We should also point out, John, and that a part of all of this is a matter of class and power. In most of the instances where we've seen these recordings, it's usually of people who do not have privilege, do not have power, and who mostly come from a particular social class. In the case of Rosalie, the TikToker, she has been online crying, obviously very distressed, and appealing for some kind of support and assistance. I know in the past JFJ has taken on assisting people who believe their rights have been violated and they don't have the money, the means to seek legal redress. Would this be something the organization would be willing to look at?
Definitely. In fact, how our legal services work is that persons like Rosalie or anyone who is in need of legal service, they'll have to approach our legal department. And once they do, this is something, once it involves human rights violation, the organization will be willing to assist and to assist pro bono, meaning that we would not charge somebody like Rosalie for assisting her in accessing justice in a case like
this. I see on the same space, social media, others are being critical of Rosalie, attacking her integrity, saying that her word cannot be trusted. 2, that she was given several opportunities to be clothed, which she didn't avail herself of, and that we should really be careful before we jump to conclusions, because there may be a twist or two in this story. Yeah, isn't that a good cautionary advice, John?
No, it is not. It is actually what I'd call it is to put it quite mildly rubbish, because ultimately Rosalie was in her private home, and regardless of what she was doing, no member of the JCF or no public servant or organ of the state had a duty to video her and have that video released to the public. Mm-hmm. In many countries, they have body camera and they have a protocol as relates to how those footages are released to the public. In Jamaica, we have been calling for years now for a protocol to be developed in relation to how body cameras are utilized and for that protocol to be made public. Mm-hmm. What we're also seemingly needing now at this time is a protocol to be developed in relation to how officers use their own private devices and make those video public. Because ultimately, if that protocol is not developed and it's not made public, we, members of the public, will not be able to see what is plainly a clear breach of a citizen's right to privacy. Even if she was behaving in the most ungodly fashion, mm-hmm. there is a mechanism that we have developed to deal with that. And that is not in the court of public opinion. That is in the court of law. So she can be charged, she can be dragged before the court, and the court deals with it. It's not right for any police officer to decide that we're going to just release the footage to publicly shame her. Mm-hmm. Especially a footage of her being naked.
Yes.
In addition to calling for disciplinary action, are there any loopholes in the law, John, that you think could be addressed to offer better protections to our citizens in situations like these?
Well, the first starting point is that the JCF itself the minister himself may need to step in and to ensure that there are sufficient rules in place and that those rules are made public to the citizens in relation to how the JCF interact with the citizen in the social media age. Because ultimately, if one looks at the Constabulary Force Act and the Book of Rules, is the minister who has the ultimate responsibility for the rule and discipline in the force. And what is clear is that we have no known public protocol in relation to how these video footages are collected and are released to the public. And what is clear, it's not the first video, it's not the second, it's not the third. Many videos are being released left, right, and center of citizens in many compromising positions. And what we have is just called that, well, the JCF will investigate. Investigating is not sufficient. What we need are sufficient rules so the public can know when the officers themselves are breaching what is just common decency and even the law itself.
John, someone on YouTube is asking me, please, to ask you to differentiate between the right to video in public space versus private spaces.
Well, ultimately, it is the law is as relates to scenarios like this, where Rosalie and even the gentlemen in St. Anne were in private spaces. It is not expected that you expect a certain degree of privacy when you're in your home, and it is not expected that when the members of the JCF comes into your home, they're coming in there presumably to enforce the law. It is not expected that the entire interaction will become fodder for the public consumption, and as such, you have a right to privacy in those circumstances. If Rosalie, for example, was walking in the community and was walking naked, that would be a complete different story. But in this case, she was in her house with her spouse, and what we see is video footage of her most private moments. I'm not very, very sure many persons who may very well say that she was behaving in a whatever fashion they may call it would not want to see their most private moments with their spouse being displayed for public consumption.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And that is the real hallmark between the difference between videoing in the public space and the private space. In private, one expects a certain degree of privacy.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. John Clark is an attorney at law and chairman of Jamaicans for Justice.
Thanks John.
Thank you very much.
Good, good. This is Nationwide at 5.
Multi-link, access every time, everywhere I go. Multi-link, 24/7 access for me. It's just a win-win when we use multi-link. This card is Jamaican built, yeah. Fast and secure, you can use anywhere. Spend while supporting the economy.
Look for the Multilink logo on your card and benefit from Jamaica's largest debit payment network.
Multi-link, 24/7 access for me.
What would I do without my multi-link?
Tune in to Cliff Hughes Online from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. as we broadcast live from the Cyber Smart Conference 2025 at the AC Marriott Hotel, Tuesday, February 11. The inaugural Cyber Smart Conference under the theme Stay Safe in Cyberspace will address the growing threats of cybercrime and cybersecurity challenges. Learn how to fend off hackers at the Cyber Smart Conference 2025. So tune in to Cliff Hughes Online from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Tuesday, February 11. It's the Cyber Smart Conference 2025 at the AC Marriott Hotel. All this and more only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. This broadcast is brought to you by the Ministry of National Security.
Jamaica's Spark program is investing $45 billion to improve roads, water, and telecom. Better infrastructure for a better future. The time by Spark is
7 o'clock. Thank you so much for staying with us here on Nationwide at 5. We're turning our attention now to Haiti because a general election has been announced for November of this year. The head of the Presidential Transitional Council, Leslie Voltaire, has announced that a general election will happen in November. He told a French television station the country is moving toward restoring democratic governance after years of political instability.
Leslie Voltaire says the council's deadline for handing power to a legitimate elected government is February 7, 2026. Haiti has not had elected representatives since January 2023. It last held elections in 2016.
Widespread violence and political turmoil in the country that's escalated since the 2021 assassination of Jovenel Moïse. Armed gangs have taken control of significant portions of the capital, Port-au-Prince. And in the interview, Voltaire said he had met with the French President Emmanuel Macron, who pledged France's support in improving Haiti's security situation. With us now to discuss is the Executive Director for the Institute of Justice and Democracy in Haiti, Brian Concannon. Good evening.
Good evening, Brian.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us.
So, 9 months away, is it likely that Haiti will be ready to have free and fair elections?
I think it's unlikely that Haiti will be ready in 9 months. When you look at all the work that needs to be done, as you mentioned, Haiti hasn't had elections in 9 years. So all of that infrastructure, voting lists and employees and voting sites is all atrophied. I think that President Voltaire was recognizing how important elections are. And so I think he was trying to put a marker down that we need to have them. he did later in that interview concede that might be a tough hill to climb, and so I expect that that saying that they'll happen this year was a way of getting people to move towards a deadline without necessarily assuming that deadline's going to be met.
But wouldn't something like this also assist, if it doesn't happen, in affecting confidence, further affecting confidence in the system? Because if it hasn't had elections for so long, as far as we understand, the gangs are still not under control, and then elections don't happen in November, how would the people of Haiti read that?
You're right that every day that this government does not have elections does risk eroding public confidence. But I think that past elections have shown that if Haitians feel elections are credible, free, and fair, they will participate. So if it's delayed by a few months, I think that Haitians will still participate if they see other evidence that it is fair. If people are allowed to campaign, if all candidates who are legally entitled to run are allowed to run, if there's no discrimination, as there have been back in the elections you mentioned before in 2015 to 2016, those elections were highly corrupt and highly violent, and the Haitian people stayed away. Only about 20% of the people voted. But although it's important to have them as soon as possible, it's more important to have them credible and fair. And again, I think the Haitian people will come out if they are credible and fair.
But given the lack of security and the very slow progress, if any, being made to really improve that situation, you can't have elections when your capital is in the grips of lawless gangsters.
That's the dilemma. On one hand, it's hard to have elections when you do have such security issues. On the other hand, it's hard to address the security issues when you have a government that does not have a constitutional mandate. And one of the lessons I draw is from my own country, the United States. In 1864, we had a presidential election during our Civil War, which dwarfs any other conflict anywhere in the Americas ever in terms of political violence. And a lot of people said, no, we can't have this election because we have too much violence going on. And it was decided that they actually did need to have the election as a way to make decisions to show how the people felt the war should be prosecuted. It ended up President Lincoln won a mandate, and that was a mandate to pursue the war aggressively, which he did. And about a year later, you had peace. And I think the same dynamic can operate in Haiti. One of the things that President Voltaire suggested was to have elections in 8 of Haiti's 10 departments. So don't have them in the West Department, where the capital Port-au-Prince is, or in the Artibonite Department, which is also under intense gang occupation. And the idea is if you have good elections in the other 8 departments, that will be good enough. That's a tough sacrifice to ask Haitian voters to make, because especially Port-au-Prince is a big chunk of the general population. I think that would only work if the government really convinced the people that the election elsewhere would be fair enough to give up all of those votes in Port-au-Prince. But it's a tough decision. I mean, you can't wait until security is established, because that may be another 10 years without elections.
Yeah. I see the French president pledging France's support to improve Haiti's security situation. What would that look like? Because there have been calls for more boots on the ground. There's been calls for more funding of the security mission to Haiti. Is the French president saying his country is prepared to step up and fill that gap?
Yeah, I haven't seen the details of exactly what they're doing. I would be highly surprised if the French will send troops. I think that it's probably more likely that they'll provide logistical support or money, but I'm not sure. But the most important thing about all these security security help for Haiti is that most of it has not been decided by Haitians. And you take the current mission, the MSS mission that is led by Kenya. That mission was originally requested by the corrupt repressive government in 2022, and it was largely championed by the United States. It's something that many Haitians, even though some Haitians feel, a lot of Haitians feel they need international help, no Haitians feel that this is their mission. And having it seen as an imposed mission undercuts the legitimacy and the credibility that the mission needs in order to fulfill its mandate. So most Haitians would like to have a way for Haitians to meaningfully consult on how the international community can best support Haitian security. Many Haitians that I talk to say the money spent on sending Kenyan soldiers from 9,000 miles away would be much better spent on giving the Haitian police better pay, better equipment, better training. And I'm not one to say yes or no, you need to have international troops, but I think it's essential that Haitians actually have a say in how that is done.
Let's turn to the Transitional Council and how it has been working or not working well. Mr. Concannon, are there indications, signs that it's beginning to gel and to be an effective leadership council?
There are some indications that it is doing better. I don't think any of them are irreversible or absolutely clear. The council has an original sin, and the original sin is that when it was created based on a proposal that Haitian civil society presented for a 5-person council. The international community, including the U.S. and the Caribbean, took that 5-person council and said, we're going to expand it to 9 people, of whom 7 are voting. They gave the 2 voting seats to the ruling party, which was the PHTK, which was the party that had dismantled Haiti's democracy for 12 years, but it had always been supported by the United States because it was doing the U.S.'s bidding in Haiti. And when you got to the formation of the council, CARICOM and the U.S. said, okay, we're giving the Haitian civil society said, PHTK, they're the ruling party, we'll give them 1 seat at the table. But the Canada and CARICOM said, no, they get 3. And that original sin, has really hobbled the council ever since. 2 of those 3 people that are associated with the PHTK, they've been credibly accused of corruption, and that's very controversial. It disrupts public support for the council, and they've also are voting in ways that are inconsistent with democracy. So as a result, the transitional council, that does include some very good people with a sincere commitment to democracy, has been lurching because it has many people who don't have a sincere commitment to democracy. And, it looks like they're more or less lurching in a right direction, but it is regrettable that they're lurching, and instead of having this, the structure that was originally proposed by Haitian civil society, that I think would have gotten us much farther along at this point.
Yeah. And finally, from me, Brian, the Haitian public service apparatus, what state is that in to be able to help the Transitional Council to deliver on elections, whether in 9 months or in 10 months?
That is unfortunately an extremely good question. Over the past 12 years, the PHTK party, when it was in power, highly politicized the civil service. And so you had people who got jobs not because of competence, but because of political loyalty. That obviously degrades it. That obviously undercuts people's trust in public servants. And then you've also had a phenomenon, especially over the past 4 years, where people have left Haiti. There's been a couple of different programs in the United States that allowed Haitians to stay, and a big chunk of Haiti's middle class, including health professionals, government workers, they left to go to the United States. They all may be forced back sooner rather than later, but it really has hollowed out key competencies in a lot of Haiti's very important services. And so one of the things that's going to happen is you're going to have to find ways of filling important election-related jobs with competent people.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Brian Cannon, Executive Director of the Institute of Justice and Democracy in Haiti. Thank you very
Brian.
much.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for covering Haiti.
Not a problem.
You're welcome.
12 minutes after 7. Cliff, before we go to the break, Bugs, I've asked Mahiri to come in here. If you could just set him up real quickly, because the story that we carried, Cliff, at 5 o'clock, the former Prime Minister, P.J. Patterson, criticizing the Holness administration, has gone viral online, triggering a tsunami of comments.
Come.
He's whispering, but I'm going to ask Mahiri to give you a sampling.
Go around that
because
side,
I want to hear your reaction to what you heard from the former Prime Minister. On Twitter, going crazy. On Instagram, almost 200 comments. On Facebook, more than 100 comments. And on YouTube, I noted when the story was being read in the 5 o'clock bulletin, a tsunami of comments. The Laborites are not happy. Not happy. But let me not assume that everybody who is commenting is a Laborite. I take that back because I don't know that. But certainly the overwhelming majority of the comments are negative.
Yes.
Mahiri has been tracking some of them. What are you finding, Mahiri? What are they saying online?
No, I wasn't here for any. Well, I shouldn't say I wasn't here for any of this. I was here for at least 5 years. But
and by 5 years, you mean of Patterson's 10 years Prime Minister?
Yes. So I wouldn't understand what these people are
saying. Mahiri's one of the youngest reporters in the newsroom.
I know a country at this point. But I'm seeing a lot of people referencing things from that administration and saying, what about this, what about that? And that seems to be the content in all of these.
Yes.
So
they're saying PJ Patterson has no right to comment.
Yeah,
on the government.
Or he has some. That's the one I'm seeing a lot. Some nerve.
Yes.
That's the one that's coming up a lot. So I'd love some context, because I don't think.
And for the context,
I don't think the comments are telling the whole story. They're all one sentence long. They're all referencing things without saying what these
like
things
what?
are. Some are saying the audacity. You know, I'm going through them. I'm trying to. Some are calling back to his time as Prime Minister, saying he wasn't one of the best, saying he doesn't have credibility to comment on such matters, and I'm not particularly sure.
So let me read 3 of them. I'll read 3 of you. 3 for you, Cliff. You mash up Jamaica. I can't see PJ Patterson this when make me walk from Meadowbrook High School to Richmond Park because of gas riot. Me not forget you, Mr. Sir. Next one from the man.
Let me just go the first one. The gas riots were April 1999. This was after he had presented the budget for that year. And the country exploded in rebelling against the provisions contained in that budget. The taxes, yes, I think there was ad valorem and taxes, and the tax package. I can't recall exactly how many billions,
right?
But it was a significant tax package, and people just revolted. And I recall from that explosion in protests where the country was locked down for a couple of days, and the Prime Minister, P.J. Patterson at the time, famously conceded that the Jamaican of today, beg your pardon, he made this quotation, I can't recall every word, but it was to the effect that the Jamaican of today was is a global citizen demanding to be heard in the policy, the national policy making process.
And that's after they took to the streets.
This is after they took to the streets and just locked down the country. And he said after that, they were going to proceed on crafting the budget by providing an opportunity for people to give their input. Yeah, because I think he was shaken by the ferocity and widespread nature of the April 1999 gas riots. What was the second one?
The next one says, the audacity of this man, I am floored. Somebody else laughs and says, no, but this must be a prank. Somebody says, Andrew, coming from PJ, you should take this as a compliment. Somebody says, tell us about FinSac. So let's pause at FinSac.
FinSac was the financial meltdown of the mid-1990s when literally hundreds of Jamaican businesses went under, including several financial institutions. Why? Because of a combination of sustained high interest rates and some poor decisions were made. The financial institutions were not properly capitalized, right? And people, all of a sudden we had groups of companies emerging, one company giving another company loan, and it was not properly collateralized. But at the heart of that was interest rates. You would borrow at 10, 15%, and within a year, you were being asked to pay interest rates in excess of 50, 60%. That is kill dead, you know, and that led to a massive fallout in the economy, and which created the Financial Adjustment Company, FinSac, where most of those businesses were sold to an overseas Texas-based billionaire. What was his name again? Jocelyn, it was? Dennis Jocelyn, I think. Yeah. And Jamaican owners who were prepared to pay probably some cents in the dollar to get back their businesses were told no. And yet those businesses were sold for less to this foreign entity. What was the name of the company?
Jamaica Redevelopment Foundation?
I think a name that
I see JRF here when I look up Dennis
Jocelyn.
Name.
Yes.
So I don't know if it's that. But I must ask though, because it doesn't really make sense to me in theory, because I always see when it comes to whenever we write PJ stories, there's always some kind of outrage by some people back then, and they're always like, oh, but what about this, what about that? And it always puzzles me how there's so many things to argue about in that period of time, despite the fact that he's the longest serving prime minister. I don't get the correlation between them having all of this bad stuff to say and the fact that he was
re-elected 3 times. Good point, Mahiri, because in the talk from which I wrote the story, Mr. Patterson said, you all can do all the talking you want, because whenever he sought the verdict of the Jamaican people, he was approved. That's a fair point.
Well, what he didn't say and won't say is that he was operating as PNP president and prime minister at a time when the opposition was not viable.
The opposition led by Edward Seaga.
Edward Seaga, after the defeat that he suffered in 1989 at the hands of Michael Manley, went on to lead an opposition that was riven by splits, internal fighting, breakaway factions, and Seaga himself, as I said, the word to describe it was he was no longer electable. He was no longer a viable alternative. And PNP under PJ Patterson, who must not be underestimated as a politician, exploited that to the max. And you may not know, but it was during that period that Seaga's heir apparent and a very able politician, who later became prime minister, walked out of Seaga's Labour Party, Bruce Golding, to form the NDM and the so-called Western 11, yeah, that group in Western Jamaica with the late Robert Russell, Godfrey Dyer, they left the Labour Party because they had seen the defeat of 89, the defeat of 1993, and it became clear that Seaga was just simply not going to cut it, and he refused to budge. That was in the period when he fell out with Pernell Charles. Pernell Charles was beaten outside the national arena.
By who?
The thugs in the Labour Party.
Oh.
The goons in the Labour Party.
Because he dared to challenge Seaga?
Yes. And Seaga famously said to them, light a candle and sing a sankey and find your way back home.
I think I've seen that clip when he says everybody want to be done.
Yeah. All of a sudden everybody want to be done. Well, there's only one done.
But so it's weird to me because you're saying that Seaga wasn't electable, but how long did it take for or did they ever realize it? I'm trying to get my political history in my head now, because how did we get from that period to them eventually taking back government under Bruce? What was the shift?
Well, a couple of things happened. Several things happened. The party, as in the Labour Party, continued to hemorrhage for some time until 1997. He had lost in 93 March. Patterson, the PNP, won heavily. I think they won about 50 of the 60 seats. They repeated it in 97. Yeah, won again.
That was December of 1997.
December of 1997. A smaller majority, but not significantly smaller. I think they ended up with about 47, 45 of the seats. And then, at the turn of the 21st century, something happened in the PNP. The PNP had lost popular support by then, you know. And then an incident happened which triggered a by-election. Danny Melville, who was an MP for North East St. Anne, resigned as Member of Parliament, and that triggered a by-election in North East St. Anne in March 2001.
And that would have brought in Shahini Robinson.
And in that by-election, Shahini Robinson won in an upset.
Yes.
It was an upset.
The seat was a safe PNP seat?
It was a safe PNP seat. The PNP was in government. Governments don't lose by-elections because they're able to mobilize and influence. And the Labour Party, because of Shahini's personality, Shahini was a political dynamo, as she proved to be until her death. Yeah,
a people person.
People person. She knew St. Anne. She knew the constituency. She had deep roots, but the PNP had controlled it for many, many years. So it was a battle royal. And on the night when Shahini won, defeating the PNP's Carol Jackson, I'll never forget it, that marked the long return of the Labour Party to power. Because that March 2001 by-election, Patterson did a couple of things. Patterson recognized that the game was up. And what did he do? He took out two of his most experienced and best political operatives in the field, Maxine Henry Wilson, and sent her back to Old Hope Road.
The party work. He needs to do the party work.
Paul Robertson, come out of government. He was a foreign minister. Go back to 89 Old Hope Road. And by the time the 2002 elections came around, the Labour Party had, I think, come to a conclusion that Seaga wasn't going to win them again, win an election for them. And they made an overture to Bruce Golding to come back into the Labour Party. And he did just before the 2002 general elections. And the PNP majority was reduced to about 7 or 8 seats. It was the closest the Labour Party was coming, with the return of Golding. And by then, Seaga realized that he wasn't going to make it. Golding became leader in 2005. Seaga resigned, and then paved the way for Golding to go to West Kingston. And by 2007, the Labour Party had won the elections.
Yeah. We're assessing PJ Patterson's legacy. That story carried at 5 listeners, triggering an avalanche of conversation about Mr. Patterson's tenure in office. This is a quote, and I'm not sure what's the context of the quote, so I'll read it to you. Quote, "More man have car, some more man have gal." End quote. Jamaicans, don't be fooled by this man. His administration single-handedly mash up Jamaica. Are you familiar with that quote?
Yes. Yes, he came under a lot of criticism for it. Yes, about more man have more gal in a bungle. Yeah, it was a takeoff of Beanie Man song. No, have gal in a bungle.
Yes.
Yes.
A big tune that in the books.
And Patterson was pilloried for that comment. Yeah. And what that comment epitomized.
Wait, hold on. Where did he make that comment? What context would he have had to make that comment?
I think it was at a PNP conference.
Oh.
My memory is telling me at a PNP conference he made that point. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it was at a time when you see the crassness and the coarseness and the crudity that we now lament.
Mm-hmm.
We were well down that road by then.
This is an everyday thing.
And it was after that he started to recognize that, listen, we needed to deal with what he called values and attitudes, because he had seen the rot that had set in. But the values and attitudes, the aims and objectives, I think, up until today, should have been pursued. But Patterson did not have the political courage, to really stand up to those who questioned and challenged him. And at the first sign of trouble, he surrendered, and walked away from it, And that program, if he had had the courage to use his political capital, but he was never that kind of politician, to expend the political capital,
Even if he, as he was so popular at the time?
No, he's not a conviction politician.
Well, I see
you understand what I mean by that?
Yes.
He was not a convict. He
so
was
always convictions.
But it was all about winning the next elections.
Ah.
I see somebody here keeps bringing it up. He's at my hearing. In those times, there were several questions as it related to vote buying, voter intimidation, voter fraud, hence cafe.
Mm-hmm. But that you couldn't put that to the feet at the feet of Patterson alone. That was building from 1944. When we had an electoral system that was just loose and manipulable. So
hold it there for us. Cliff Hughes reflecting all he remembers, and they've come over to hear, it jumped. The numbers jumped on YouTube. Giving young Mahira and myself a political history lesson. Take the break, come back with more.
Apply for your Sagicor Bank Preferred Prepaid MasterCard today. Load your remittances for everyday spending. Receive cash transfers from any local bank. The time by Sagicor Bank is...
It's 7:30.
Imagine opening a bank account without ever leaving your home. Well, at CIBC Caribbean, we've changed the game. Open a new CIBC savings or checking account completely online using your computer or phone, anywhere, anytime. No need to visit the bank, no waiting in line. Just apply, verify, and sign your documents, all online. It's secure, seamless, and 100% digital. Open your new CIBC account by applying online today.
Good morning and welcome to the newest edition to the Nationwide News Network family on Hot 102. Good afternoon, I'm Erica Allen. I'm Elizabeth Bennett. In Nationwide News at this hour.
This is Nationwide. I'm Cliff Hughes.
And I'm Carol Narcisse.
Morning, welcome to This Morning on Hot 102.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Beverly Anderson Manley. Good morning and welcome.
For 20 years, Nationwide 90 FM has been your trusted source for breaking news, delivering critical updates when you needed them most.
3:37 in the afternoon, we interrupt to bring you more from the One Don Klansman gang trial. Another guilty verdict.
with fearless, fact-based journalism that unearthed the truth.
Between 2012 and 2018, nearly $5.5 million was taken from the track legend.
And insightful commentary that sparked meaningful conversations and shifted perspectives.
Welcome to the front page. I'm Emily Crooks. I am Naomi Francis. We're pleased to be joined by Roger Clark.
From the stories that shook Jamaica,
We're having an earthquake.
to those that inspired change and left lasting impacts.
In 2014, to be dealing with an issue such as the Mario Dean case.
Nationwide 90 FM has been there, diving deep into the issues that matter most to you. As we mark 20 years of dedicated service in 2025, we honor the trust you have placed in us and reaffirm our commitment to serving you, the Jamaican people, rooted in truth, fairness, and integrity. We continue to provide incisive reporting with a foundation of accountability and respect. While we celebrate our journey, we are also focused on the future, fueled by the same passion and purpose that has always driven us. Thank you for supporting Team Revolution for 2 decades. Stay with us. The best is yet to come.
Labor Rights, West Kingston Youth Forum, live and direct at the Edward Siaga Auditorium, Tivoli Gardens High School, this Thursday, February 13th at 5 p.m. Let's interact on how the JLP breaks down barriers to prepare a solid future that hotspot opportunities for all youths in our nation. That is why I vote JLP. Hear from special guest Senator the Honorable Dana Morris Dixon, the vibrant West Kingston youths and others. West Kingston Youth Forum this Thursday 5 p.m. at the Edward Siaga Auditorium, Tivoli Gardens High School, hosted by champion West Kingston MP, the Honorable Desmond McKenzie. West Kingston Youths active and strong. See you there.
Despite all the boast about prosperity and despite the economic indices, there are too many families which simply cannot make ends meet. There is a recent report that shows hunger and malnutrition in Jamaica are at an alarming levels. We have to change course. We are moving in the wrong direction. The moral order is under siege and the social order in decay. We have to come to the rescue of Jamaica, land we love. Time to restore the precepts of transparency and accountability.
Former Prime Minister P.J. Patterson addressing the PMP Region 6, a forum held in that region. And just let me go a comment in response to the comment he made about alarming level of poverty. Somebody says, quote, alarming level of poverty coming from PJ, full stop, laughable, full stop. Let me find some silver lining, because I've been going through the comment trying to find a positive comment. I'm not finding any yet. So let me ask you. What would you credit positively to PJ's time in office?
Yeah, what was his greatest trait?
Or achievement?
I think PJ Patterson must be given credit for taking the violent, confrontational edge out of the politics. He wasn't confrontational, yes? He was the, if you will, kind of consensus builder, peacemaker. He wasn't in the up in your face type. Yeah, that would pick a fight or, take a fight to you. No. And I think when the history of that period is written, you're going to find that of all the prime ministers, he may be the one that was least confrontational and was always looking for a consensus. But in that, you have the seeds of the weakness of his leadership. Because in our competitive two-party system, Yes, you should seek consensus, but it's not all. Most times, consensus does not work. Yeah, you've got to step out front and lead. He wasn't that kind of leader.
But
he was what Carl Stone described, the master of patron clientelism politics. Yes, P.J. Patterson was peerless when it comes to organizing and knowing people right across the country. Yeah, he knew workers in Darliston, in his constituency in Eastern Westmoreland, all across the country. He could pick up and call Boogs up in Northern St. Catherine and say, "Listen, I needed to do this." He has the memory of an elephant, yeah, and he loves politics. That's how he cut his teeth in 1958 when he came back to Jamaica after his studies in London and worked for the PNP. Yeah, he knows organizational politics.
But the things you identified just now as potential negatives, some may say, no, those are positives. That's what you need to be an effective leader. You don't upset the apple cart. You don't upset people.
Not in a country where a post-independent country struggling with systemic problems of violence, social inequality, economic inequality, where you, as leader, you're forced to pick a side. Who you're going to go with and why, and have the clarity of thought, yeah, the clarity of logic, and the ability to bring people along. Yeah, most of our previous prime ministers had that ability. Bustamante, Norman Manley, Michael Manley.
Which is precisely the point I was going to. He saw the cost, the high cost Michael Manley paid for being exactly what you just described. The person who was willing to stand in the breach and say, my principles dictate X or Y. He paid a high price for that. Perhaps Patterson just didn't want to repeat that.
Fair enough. But what did he replace it with? Transactional politics? Patron clientelistic politics? What did he replace it with? Yeah? What held us together? Yeah? And that's where the history will be, is still, the jury is still out.
Yeah. It's interesting you bring that up because when we're talking about Shahini a while ago, you're saying how important it was that, and even when you're talking about PJ, you're talking about how important it is for politicians to, outside of doing their job, they're supposed to know people and get along well with people. And sometimes when I think about where we are right now in terms of the general election that's coming up, I think to myself, how many people right now, or even back then, had the situation where they were good representatives, but their constituents didn't know them, as opposed to their constituents knowing them, but they weren't good representatives, and how much that affected whether or not someone got votes when the elections came?
Well, it comes down to those relationships. Yeah, you need those relationships, but you also need policies that are going to deliver for people and the country and the wider community. Yeah, and yet you have to get the blend right. Yeah, and I suppose the point you make, Ricardo, after Michael Manley, he had seen what had happened under Michael, and coming immediately after Michael, I suppose he wanted to distinguish himself and go along another route. Yeah, but you know, that was a period when you talk about corruption now, huh? Oh. Audley Shaw used to bust a scandal every week.
The comrades are blowing up my phone. They say you have not mentioned the liberalization of the telecom sector. They say you have not mentioned the multiple highways that were built. They say you have not mentioned multiple schools that were built under P.J. Patterson.
The liberalization of the telecom sector was an achievement.
Yeah.
Up until the Digicel arrived in Jamaica in 2000, 2001.
Right.
After, under Paddison and Paulwell. Paulwell must take some credit for it. He showed courage. Yeah. I remember those days on radio and TV, the huge, intense debate about liberalizing telecoms versus keeping the monopoly of telecommunications Jamaica, previously Cable and Wireless or Jamaica Telephone Company, and Paulwell, yes, articulated the case for competition in that sector. And I think that is an achievement, yeah, that cannot be denied.
Yeah.
The infrastructure highway projects, he started them on the Highway 2000 with the help of a man still with us, Kingsley Thomas. Yes. And of course, we had the building of that highway, the North Coast, from Ferry to the North Coast, under the French company, Bouygues. Yeah. So, yes.
Yeah.
But Paddison was in power for how long?
That would have been, 18 years? No,
the PNP were, he would have been in power as a senior man for the 18 and a half, 19 years. He was prime minister for 14 years. And those 14 years saw the setting in of the social decay and the rot in the country. They also saw the losses in terms of the economy. Yeah? The financial sector meltdown cost this country, 40% of our gross domestic product? It took us nearly a decade to recover. Yeah? It saw the degradation in social services, public services, because the government just didn't have the money, yeah, to do the things that we needed to do in terms of the security architecture in the country. The security infrastructure was underfunded, not defunded, underfunded. Education, underfunded. Public health services, underfunded. Not because they were wicked, but they just didn't have the resources. The management of the economy was not of such magnitude that we could spend what we needed to have spent, yeah, in servicing those areas.
A comment. Lord God, I got a text. Lord God, boss we need to come in upon the conversation here. Our callers might not forgive us. 630-9371-24, 618-8255. Those are the numbers to call. Cliff Hughes giving, well, older than my hearing, but still, two of his young reporters in the newsroom, a history lesson. We take the break and come back with your calls.
The national budget is everybody's business because it impacts every Jamaican. The time brought to you by the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service is...
It's 7:45.
Labor Rights, West Kingston Youth Forum live and direct at the Edward Siaga Auditorium, Tivoli Gardens High School, this Thursday, February 13th at 5 p.m. Let's interact on how the JLP breaks down barriers to prepare a solid future that hotspot opportunities for all youths in our nation. That is why I vote JLP. Hear from special guest Senator the Honorable Dana Morris Dixon, the vibrant West Kingston youths and others. West Kingston Youth Forum this Thursday 5 p.m. at the Edward Siaga Auditorium, Tivoli Gardens High School, hosted by champion West Kingston MP, the Honorable Desmond McKenzie. West Kingston Youths active and strong. See you there.
Taking some of your comments, here's one. To be honest though, PJ can't be making those statements. When he was PM, things were extremely bad. When it was budget time, we all worried about new taxes and what would be taxed. I remember as a boy, I would sit with my dad and await the budget presentation. The problem with PJ is that he stretched many of the projects over 3 terms. More man have more gal was at a PMP conference. Another comment. Also at that conference was a reference to people not just having a cell phone, but in some cases 2 such phones they could use to call themselves. Faithful, good evening.
Good evening, Cliff. Good evening. Good evening
one and all.
Good evening.
Anyway, happy celebration, 20th celebration. Please, one thing that you're missing, and this morning program with Emily and Naomi. Naomi used to have a documentary series she did to a Thursday morning time. I think you used to come in and do 1 or 2 times too. You remember it?
Thursday mornings?
Yeah, a documentary series.
Lifetime. I think it was Lifetime.
Well,
we would take a personality and look back at their lives. Yes.
I used to enjoy that. I think that's one of the reasons why when I tell myself if you're going to get a TV station, I used to enjoy it when those times. And one of the famous, one of the persons that caused to love current affairs and politics was Ronnie Mason. I don't know if you remember him also.
Sure.
Yeah,
yes,
that's
late Ronnie Mason.
That's one time when I returned from foreign.
Yes.
I used to enjoy his program very much. When I read that he died, I miss him very much. Okay. The constitution reform that is going on. I heard Mr. Patil say, no, by the way, you have Mr. Bill going in the arm before. Did not Mr. Bill going say all they need to do is to dust off the thing that they have before, which I think Patil was a part of. You remember the comment from Mr. Bruce Golden?
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
Right. Mr. Golden say if they don't, Mark and I want the exit president. That's what I want. But I thought they settle on a president that they have going on. And Mr. Patil say if they don't get exit president, he's gonna take to the street of March.
No, that's not what he said. It's the method of appointment that's being proposed that he has a problem with. He says that if they go ahead with the move to allow the prime minister to unilaterally appoint the president if the opposition leader disagrees, then he would go to the streets. He doesn't believe the prime minister should have that unilateral power.
Did he not say he want an executive president?
No, he says it is something that he...
I heard that somewhere.
He said it's something that he wanted in the past, but we've moved beyond that and he has accepted that a ceremonial president is necessary. For now.
Right. So tell me, our march will help to help us further on the constitutional reform that we have going on.
All right. So I don't have enough time to go through all of that with you, faithful, because those are detailed questions and people are on the line. But you can call back, all right? And I can go through that with you. 630-9371-2461-88255. Errol, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Yes.
This is the great Errol.
What are going?
There, Mr. Hughes.
Yes, Errol, the great.
A long time you know the thing, because you see, back in them time, they found Seattle time when election are run. Eh?
Yes.
Y'all want the man we count the vote and them thing there, don't you? Because I know you a long time, Mr. Hughes.
You used to count vote?
Back in the days then. when the election got count, Mr. Hughes, it's sweeter when you see them on the lead. Yeah, man.
It's sweet when him say we the lead.
When you see the PMP on the lead, man, sweet Mr. Hughes, man. Them time we just sit down and
whop him, Errol, whop him.
I watch the TV, man. Sweet Mr. Hughes, man, when him see all Michael Manley, then when PJ take it over,
Whop him, Errol, whop him.
You see Mr. Hughes, man, but Mr. Hughes attack him, not attack the whole thing. Mr. Hughes.
Yes, sir.
Remember Michael Manley carry the country to the brink, When they talk about communists and bring the world from Cuba and then come and we get all some milk. When they cut the milk, boy, me and tell you could all come out of the pan. Mr. Hughes don't know that Chevron because you didn't tell the boy.
Is that true, Cliff?
Me never do have that.
But you had shortages, though.
Yes. Shortages were rampant.
About 1980 Chevron.
Ricardo, 1988. But let me ask you, because since Errol brings it, let me ask you. There were people who, I gather, admired Michael Manley for his principles, his ideology. But Errol is right. It brought the country to its knees.
Yes. Economically, yes. Yes. So the economy was virtually gutted. Yes. By the time the elections of October 1980 were being held, yes, our reserves were wiped out. We didn't have reserves. Inflation was rampant. we were struggling to pay our bills. Yeah. And
what are Mr. Hughes? I don't cut you. Remember, one of the time at D&G appear police and soldier, Mr. Hughes. Remember that?
Yes.
Don't forget that, Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Me a long time man in this business, I know, Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Me no just come. Chevron, Ricardo.
Yes.
Police, D&G have to pay police and soldier.
Wow.
The government now no resource to pay. They back up all D&G nearly, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Then Chevron, then bring a man named Carl Thompson come at D&G. Jesus God, him nearly done D&G money. Carl Thompson.
All right, Errol, we'll give somebody else a chance. Thanks for the call.
Carl Russian Thompson, Errol. Right?
No, you know, man. PJ, ideas.
Yes.
Michael Manny kick him out of the thing him say I shall return.
You're talking the Shell Waiver scandal.
No, give me a little more time.
No, man, we're almost out of time, Errol. I'm thinking somebody has a chance. Thanks for the call.
What he's talking about
Yes.
is a Shell Waiver scandal. When PJ Patterson was, what was he at the time? He was a member of the cabinet, senior member of the cabinet.
Was it finance minister?
I'm not. Was it finance?
I
It could have been
vaguely recall
finance.
reading that he was a finance minister.
Yeah, but he was a senior member of the government and the cabinet, and the general manager of Shell, Howard Hamilton, who was a member of the PNP National Executive Council. They had a deal where Shell would have the duty on imported fuel was waived. Yes. And somehow people in the PNP discovered it and raised hell. And it caused a huge split in the PNP.
Yeah.
This was 1991 or 91, somewhere there. And I was head of news at JBC at the time, and I stumbled on this story. I went to have lunch at the Terra Nova Hotel, and I saw all the members of the cabinet and senior PNP bigwigs, and I asked, what was happening? And I got the story.
So you brought that story?
We brought that story, yes. Yes. Government, I can't remember Shell Wave, and we carried the story on the 7:30 evening news.
On JBC?
On JBC. And I remember then General Manager look at me and telling me, Cliff, you know, if you get it wrong, I'll have to have your resignation in the morning. And I wrote the story, produced the story, government rocked by Shell Waiver scandal
That sounds
and whatever.
like you. That sounds like you.
Yeah. And then the Gleaner had the story on its front page the following morning.
Yeah.
Yeah. I slept well.
Vindication.
Yes.
Who's next, Books? Carl, good evening.
Evening.
Hi, Carl.
Ricardo.
What a God.
Mr. Hughes, Ricardo,
Yes.
I wouldn't know.
Yes,
I would
Carl.
know either, to be
In a
fair.
gas riot, the same one you talk about since evening. A policeman did all kill right at Chavis Avenue, some right after some burning in car. You remember that story also? And the PMP administration. Go and check your record.
People died. People died in the April
And it
89
was
gas
three.
riots.
It was 3 full days of demonstration.
Yes.
3 full days.
Yeah.
And right now, if you're happy, turn into Kingston and drive anywhere for Langston Road. A lot of those businesses where you see used to do there, right on that stretch there, tear down in that CM3 night there, and some
Yeah.
of them never recover. I passed a couple of weeks ago, never recover.
Wait, so was this an island-wide?
Yes, it was
Yes,
island-wide.
it's an island-wide.
So they did say the country did lock down like sardine tin?
No, that
3
was
days.
it. That was 20 years before.
Oh.
In
But,
1979.
Oh, I see.
When
But,
Siaga,
Mr.
when
Hughes-
Siaga and the Nationalist Patriotic Movement
Mr. Hughes, the problem
shut
with
down.
PJ
Hold on a call. We're
I mean,
teach
so
here,
your
you
time
know.
limited.
No, we're teach here as well.
All right.
Yeah, 1979 January, when gas prices went up, and Siaga exploited it. A little demonstration by Nationalist Patriotic Movement. Michael Williams and his wife Joan Williams were in charge of the NPM at the time, and they started a thing, and it just snowballed right across the country. And Siaga came on later and boasted that they had locked down the country tighter than a sardine can. Yes, Carl.
A problem with PJ Patterson have, what you're saying in Carlota and Shell now, is because Andrew didn't take the increase. And once Andrew does, he take it as
No, Carl. No, man. No, Carl. No, man. No, Carl. Better than that.
Come on, make we talk about the history
Yeah,
of the thing.
better
man.
than that.
Just come spoil it.
I have a final question for Carl, for Cliff though. Thanks, Carl. Manley.
Michael?
Yes. In hindsight, do you think, obviously there were social advancements. Nobody can deny that. Yeah.
Very, very significant
Absolutely.
social advancements.
Do you think the economic price that we paid for those advancements was worth it?
No.
Why?
Because I think the country lost too much. And even Michael himself recognized it later when he said the democratic socialist movements, we, as in comrades and him, failed to appreciate the capacity of the country to move that quickly. Yeah, to internalize and to take in the some of those changes were revolutionary to Jamaicans. This was 10 years after independence. Yeah, old prejudices were still deeply rooted in the economic structures of the country. Yeah, and it was a shock to a lot of Jamaicans. Yeah.
So the lesson is, be a pragmatist.
Pragmatism, works. Certainly more sustainable, because what the PNP and the radical agenda between 72 and 79 did was to provoke certain interests that you just couldn't match.
Yeah.
You couldn't beat. Yeah.
That means you're supposed to ball on the night of October. When is October 30?
October 30, 1980.
You ball.
No.
You're sad, man.
Very sad.
Yes, sir.
Very sad. But you knew you were going to lose.
Yeah.
Yeah, we knew we were going to lose. Yeah, I think you would be stupid to have thought otherwise. The writings were clear. The signs were clear that the Labour Party, Siaga, I've said it here before, Siaga and the Labour Party started running Jamaica in January 1979.
So you knew you were going to lose despite, how much was it? 100,000 strong?
150,000 strong.
Couldn't be wrong.
Couldn't be wrong.
When they did dead wrong.
In the old city of Manteca.
We're out of time. Dana Davey. Thank you. Andrew Glenn Anderson. We'll have to have more of these as the campaign starts and the election draws near. Mahiri, thank you. The rest of my colleagues in the newsroom, the best in the business, led by our editor, Cara Powell. I'm Ricardo Brooks.
And I'm Cliff Hughes.
And I'm Mahiri Stewart.
Good night.
Who shops at Great